actually make any streams public as any of these roundtables public. But
je gaat te streamen. Ja, geen seksdingen, geen gevaarlijke dingen, geen alles wat maar links. Want als je dat op een Twitch streamt, dan wordt hij gelijk geband. Dus hij zegt van, ik ga nu de Twitch stream aanzetten. Ik zeg, let me get my porn collection.
What?
Alright, we're live.
Oh, just don't talk to the wife. Just ignore that.
I will switch myself to push to talk because I'm going to be eating some crispy duck, which is delicious.
Okay, got everything ready for the stream.
The stream is up. Farting Devil is on the air.
Perfect. Awesome.
For the collection.
All right. I'm going to get the ball rolling then. So just as an introduction, I just want to ask some of you guys, because a lot of the people that are in here are mercenaries or Wardeckers. What do you think of the current state of Wardecking ISEC right now?
It might be good if you actually have people introduce themselves first, so that we have that on record who's here.
All right. Should we go? We'll go from the top to the bottom, I guess. I'm not sure who Gas Miner is, to be honest, but Cal Lawrence?
I'm just here to listen for the most part. I do Wardecs once in a while, but I'm not going to be talking much.
All right. Lord Razpatas?
Hey.
Natural Clone Killer?
Hi, yeah. Natural Clone Killer from Vendetta Mercenary Group.
Yeah, I should probably just double back, say Lord Raz is from Devil's Warrior Alliance. And so is next to that Ralph.
Hi. Hello.
We got Toro Bushido from Marmot Collective.
Serious now.
And I'm Vimsy Vortis from Break-A-Wish Foundation.
Thanks, Vimsy.
And we are joined by Innominate and Yintan from the CSM. We're here to listen and moderate.
And Ashtarothi.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, and looks like we've got Copy from Public Enemy. I think he's just listening in.
Yep. Soon to be CSM Ashtarothi, obviously.
Yes. I also know we got a couple more people that are going to try and get into here. I know Mike Azariah is going to try and pop in, and there's a couple other people I'm poking to try and get in here at the last minute. So yeah, I'll just I'll double back to my first question. What do you guys think of the current state of Wardecking in HiSec?
Well, mechanically speaking, it hasn't changed since 2013. Like, the actual war declaration system is as it is when it was changed in Inferno. So from that regard, it's the same. It hasn't changed, but the other systems that affect it have, right? Because it's interconnected heavily with the way corporations and alliances work. And with the watch list is the big deal thing that kind of caused enormous problems recently.
Yeah, removing the watch list was very bad. Finally went from trade hugging to really hunting targets. By the time we were at full speed, if somebody removes the watch list, it's like almost impossible to target specific war targets anymore.
Yeah, that was... Go ahead.
Yeah, you can still do it, of course, with a lot of scouts and scouting the area, and like you can run locators, but you don't know if they're online or not. So many gave up and they were back to the station hugging again, which I think is bad because then people will Wardeck way more alliances like we are doing right now again than we had when we had the watch list. Because when you watch list, you way less targets to go after to keep everybody busy.
No, I don't think anybody would disagree that the watch list towards the end was pretty powerful. It was very, very, very powerful.
How much of that was actually the log server, though?
Personally, I wouldn't have used it too much. I mean, I'd have a couple of people I would want to go after, and then check whether they were online or not. And I mean, like, yeah, it was nice you get the notification, but I think that was a bit much.
It has hurt us.
Overall, like, well, everyone in my alliance stopped playing Eve because we've never been interested in declaring large numbers of wars on people, and it made it functionally impossible to target a small group of people at all.
Same with devils.
So
Yeah,
can I ask, does anybody feel that decking in Eve has ever been in a good place? Like, is there a time in which you can be like, oh yeah, the Wardec system worked well circa this year?
Yes.
I think there's
And
improvements that can be made.
Because I always
But-
enjoyed the worlds since the beginning.
From 2011 until the point where they deemed it not an exploit. The point from about 2011 up until they deemed it not an exploit to join a corp to an alliance and then leave it again to intentionally remove the war deck, that was good. The point where it turned to shit, like when all of the problems started, was when they stopped deeming it an exploit to join a corp to an alliance and then drop it out again, because that was what caused people to start doing that in order to save structures and resulted in the deck shield fiasco. Like, prior to that, it worked pretty much fine.
Can you guys hear me? I've had a couple of problems.
So
We
from
can hear
your
you.
perspective, it was at its best when it allowed you to go after people's existing structures in high sec. Basically.
Well, it's
No.
always done that, but the problem was that particular thing resulted in posses being completely invulnerable if someone wanted them to be.
The core popping stuff is a problem.
That's the actual deck shielding is not what I'm talking about there. I'm trying to get to the core of why you think it was in a good state then. I want to know what changed in the effects of wars between then and now.
Well, the ally system didn't exist, right? So there was no way to circumvent the cost of declaring war on somebody, which the ally system effectively does. And the ally system also basically allows any large group to trivially shit on anyone smaller than them by just allying into their war for free instantaneously. It's like, it completely overrules the normal system of you have to pay money to be at war with someone and wait 24 hours. Instead, it's free and it's 4 hours because they have declared a war. Like, it completely circumvents that balancing mechanic. So it just trivializes shitting on anyone who's smaller than you.
We had a problem recently where a group war decked a citadel and then also war decked the same citadel with a number of one-man corps. And so we had to assist against all of those one-man corps. And basically, because we would go to war with that main group, and then they would just hop into the other group so that they could hit the citadel. So they could circumvent the fact that we wanted to defend that citadel, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, that's a pretty unusual thing. I think I've had that happen with posses in the distant past.
But the core popping stuff to me is quite a big issue, where you can just avoid a war in that sense.
Still a couple of people. I see people queuing up.
For me, the war deck mechanic isn't broken. It
I
isn't
see
bad.
natural clone killer lighting up, but I'm not hearing anything from him.
I can hear him.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Both of them.
Yeah, we seem to be having a few people with technical difficulties right now.
So regarding the fact that it makes a large group easier to shit on a small group, do you think that works both ways? Do you think that it's a good system in that it would allow people to bring in other groups to defend their citadels and things like that? Because
but there just
personally, I
needs to be a
feel that
cost.
was. But what?
There just needs to be a cost associated with it in that sense, because at the moment, like Vimsy said, it's free, and it's a 4-hour window.
Okay,
It's
so
also
what you're
open
saying
to
is
the
that it's
public in
free for
general.
someone to choose to assist, though obviously they can pay for the help. But that's you saying that no, there's no role. High-sec mercenaries in that case, it's just people wanting to shit on you.
No, it's basically the case that anyone who isn't a big old high-sec mercenary group, if they declare war on somebody, they end up at war with a big old high-sec mercenary group, because a high-sec mercenary group wants to be at war with as many people as possible, and they can do that for free by allying into anybody's war.
Okay.
So you can have two small mining corporations having a territorial dispute, and then all of a sudden they'll have Public Enemy, Devil's Warriors, Marmite, and Pirate all in on top of them because it's free.
Okay.
So I got a question.
I just wanted to figure out what was going on there because I'm not familiar. I wasn't really familiar with.
Yeah, the ally mechanic kind of opens it up to just about anybody to walk in off the street and take part in the war. When you, as an aggressor, don't functionally have any recourse to that.
It's not just free, it's at the cost of the person that you're trying to kill. Right? Someone else is paying for you to be able to ruin their day.
Yeah.
So I've got a question, though. You said that 2 mining groups will be using a war for territorial disputes.
I was using that as an example.
Right, and I've heard that example used before, but does anybody know of that actually happening? Is that a real application of the Wardec mechanics?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's actually what a lot of our contracts used to be.
And if you look at videos of CCP developers describing the intention of the war declaration mechanic, that's like one of the things that they'll cite as an intended purpose of it.
I absolutely understand that it was an intended purpose. I wasn't convinced that that was something that was actually happening.
Well,
it does,
no, because of
but
the
it's
issues
uncommon.
that Vimsy is describing.
It used to be a lot more common, like in the time period that I stated earlier in 2011, before the ally system existed, and when wars were also much cheaper. Like more organic wars against groups occurring over actual disputes were a lot more common.
I think for me, the CCP could probably improve the information, letting people know like who's assisting, rather than just getting a mail, if you know what I mean, about it. I think that's quite poor. I personally haven't got a major issue with the mechanics that we've got at the moment. That's just from my perspective. But in terms of letting newer players know that they're at war, or like people knowing where they are with assists, the system is really difficult to read.
Yeah, and the text, like the actual messages given in the game concerning like what's happening in a war, are written in this kind of in-universe lore text that doesn't provide a lot of information. It's like that with a lot of the game's dialogues, and it's shit, and CCP need to stop doing it. And provide players with actual information.
Well, I think this kind of moves into my next question, which was going to be like, what kind of steps do you think CCP should be taking as far as educating new players about wars in high-sec, and, well, general players in high-sec, I guess?
Like, have the dialogue boxes actually say what's going to happen in the game.
Yeah, it needs to be explained to the new player as to that high-sec isn't safe in that sense whilst they're at war. And then, therefore, the explanation and the information just needs to be a little bit more effective than just a mail that they can miss.
Job telling.
Although, to be fair, in that respect, the notification that they send you is a lot more visible under the new notification system.
Yeah,
that is an
I agree.
improvement.
Something
That's true.
visible
That is true.
would be
I saw an idea floated on the forums a while back to have a little notification on the character selection screen. Yeah, they were having it as a big black or big red X flag across the thing, and it wasn't very well received on the forums. But then, not a lot is. But I've been kind of coming around to the idea. The more I've been thinking about it, because of late, actually, I've come across a few war targets that had no idea that they were at war. And then they weren't necessarily new players, but they had missed the notification that they were at war.
I mean, the game has a tendency to spam you with notifications, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one for CCB to fix in that sense.
Well, like a large part of the reason that new players have, or you see a lot of players with a really negative view of Wardec is because, well, largely there's a big sort of late in particular, there's a very negative view of Wardecking entities, largely because of mechanically where we've been pushed. And you hear the same sort of truisms and the same sort of things said by new players who really haven't been around long enough to know these things. So I think like corporations and CEOs and the people who are recruiting largely have a lot to do with the negative attitude that gets sort of perpetuated. Now, granted, obviously, it's, you're kind of being aggressed in high sec, so obviously we're ruining people's days. It's, going to get a bit of a negative response, but at the same time, I think a lot of the reason why it's so negatively received is just this sort of cultural thing rather than mechanical,
I think that one of the things that I've always run into is that there is not always a really good recourse to the person who's being aggressed. And it's often taught, the colloquial wisdom is that the best thing to do is just to avoid the fights and to avoid the war deckers, which is why historically people have said that there needs to be some sort of commitment by the aggressing party, like a structure or something like that, that can be interacted with by the defenders. So that way you can feel like you're empowered as a member of the war.
The problem with that kind of mechanic is it puts an enormous burden on the aggressor, which overall reduces like the usability of the Wardec system for everybody, right? And it also trivializes the ability of mercs to, again, ruin the days of people who are smaller than them. Because, for example, if, say, again, the classic territorial dispute, I live here, go away, stop mining my asteroids. So you have to put up this structure to declare war on somebody, and then Marmite allies in for free, and then there's 20 dudes sitting on top of your structure in T3s blowing it up, and you can't do shit.
What would you think about something less based on I'm going to make a structure to declare war on you and war on I'm going to try and kill this structure, and if I don't, or I'm going to try and kill a certain amount of your stuff during the course of this war, and that's my casus belli, as it were, and some way to actually have a real war aim, something like that. Would that be a better way to do it?
We're talking about sort of objective-based gameplay here.
Yeah,
Well, there needs
because
It's,
right now I
it
feel
makes
that
denying gameplay even more powerful, right?
Yeah.
If your stated goal is blow up X amount of ship value, the correct answer to the defender is to just not undock.
well, if the war is going to go on for X amount of time anyway, and the war will end if you kill X amount of stuff, would not the optimal solution to that be bring X amount of stuff? Because even if you lose, you still win. The war will still end.
But if you use that same,
I'm just throwing it, just like putting out a counterpoint there. That's a real human behavior thing, and I don't claim to be an expert on human behavior.
Could you see that happening in nullsec or lowsec? I don't think that'd work, and I don't think it'd work in
Highsec
highsec.
is
in that sense.
fundamentally a different beast because you have fucking Concord, like, and
Well,
you're also dealing with a different level of player in Highsec. You're dealing with someone
nullsec,
who
if
is.
we could, sorry, Rob.
No,
In
go ahead.
nullsec,
That's
if
true.
we
Most
can
Highsec
say,
players are much smarter.
if we can look at a situation and say,
I
yeah,
think
we
you're
can throw
talking
a
about
billion in
some of the
towards-
Hey
fundamentals
guys, can
of
we
the
let
game.
fucking Ashtarothi talk, please?
I wasn't the one talking.
It's an ominous.
Oh, fucking hell.
In
Sorry,
nullsec, if you tell us that we can take a billion ISK of ships, throw them to a meat grinder, lose them, and
Be done.
end whatever conflict we're in, you're damn right we're going to do that. At least if it's the wiser decision.
You have to remember, like, most high-sec players who are going to be on the defensive in a lot of wars, the worst thing that can happen in their mind is that they lose a ship.
Right. I'm not disagreeing with that point. Just trying to say, well, what would nullsec do is not a good direction to go.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
not at all.
And, like, requiring people to have a structure as an objective is, again, it's kind of dumb, because then most people don't have structures to shoot at. And with POSs going away, like, the only structure that you have to shoot at is citadels and POCos are kind of fine, but shooting a citadel is pretty much the most cancerous experience I've ever had in the game, and I say that as someone who's part of the first group to actually kill at Ash Towers through all of its timers in Highsec. It's like the worst thing I've ever done. It was awful.
It's
Like-
really, really tedious.
Yeah, that
Really
shouldn't be a
tedious.
requirement for a war. Like, people shouldn't ever have to shoot a citadel.
It's not as bad as a
At the
pasta.
defenders, at the defenders' sort of behest. You know, they'll set the timers. Often the most effective defense some of these citadels have is having a timer near enough around downtime. Like, it's just really, really annoying.
And it's not you have to shoot it 3 times, and you have to wait 6 days between one of them, and it's like banging your head into a wall.
Don't you think that gives the defender the opportunity to mount a bit of a defense, though?
Do they ever though?
No.
Yes, they do sometimes. But
Really?
the time doesn't, yeah. We've dealt with some defended citadels, and sometimes it went really badly, actually.
So let's assume that the mechanics, the actual implementation of citadels, i.e. the timers and all that stuff, is a problem with citadels in and of itself. But that doesn't necessarily make structure-based combat inherently bad. It just means that that particular piece of the puzzle needs to be solved, which is already true. In addition, there are more than one structure coming out. I mean, we've got engineering complexes coming out in November. We've got drilling platforms coming shortly thereafter. We've got propaganda platform or structures coming out soon. So the idea is that we're moving more and more towards us having stuff in space.
Well, that would all be very well and good, but currently we don't have any tools that you could have structure-based.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'd be fine with structure-based tools. If you wanted to smack my structure-based tools around, I'd be fine if I had tools. But currently we're lacking those.
Yeah, can we just take a step back here? I want to hear you guys I want you guys to talk about what's your main objective when you start a war. Why do you guys start a war, and why do you think that the current system doesn't fulfill those objectives for you?
For me, they do. Can you guys hear me now? Or no?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
For me, it's tiers, kill mills, loot, and good fights. It's more. Currently, I think the defender side needs more work instead of the attacker side.
From the position of someone who, like Tora, who's the CEO of an alliance executor of a fairly large mercenary group, when you're someone like that and you declare a war, your objective is either you're filling out a contract for somebody, in which case it's whatever the hell their random objective is, like whatever your clients. Could be freaking anything. It could be, I don't like this person because he smack talked me in local. So now you have to declare war because somebody got smack talked, and your objective is just cause as much damage as possible. Otherwise, it might be destroy a structure because some guy wants the position, like they might want a Poco over a planet, might want a POS, they might not want another citadel in their in the system that they have a citadel in. Be freaking anything. Personally, in my experience, the thing that makes me declare war on people most is them talking smacking local. It is the objective is to just be mean to them. Just cause as much damage as possible by destroying as many ships and objects as possible, simply because they did something that I found objectionable.
So it's basically a way. Your opinion on wars in high sec is that they should be there to ensure that things have a consequence. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, they're a tool that allows people to exact violence for whatever reason they want. Like, if somebody does something you don't like, if somebody has something you want, wars are there so that you can use violence to try and obtain that, or to exact that consequence that you want.
Much
More
in the way that
specifically,
violence is used
feel-
anywhere else in EVE.
And
Yeah,
more
exactly.
specifically, you feel that that's not being fulfilled right now because people can, larger groups can involve themselves in that and then, force their own violence upon you as they found what you were doing objectionable, and you see that as being a problem.
It's not really a me problem. Like, as someone in a mercenary group, we don't have difficulty with other mercenary groups.
Yeah,
really.
by and large.
But it's everybody on a lower level than a mercenary group, like, gets utterly fucked by mercenary groups. Like, totally fucking ass plowed.
Okay.
Currently, the problem that we find is the level of work required to track down and execute any sort of meaningful operation against a reasonably sized group of more than 3 or 4 people is getting pretty intense in terms of the amount of time you need to spend scouting, locating, verifying whether or not somebody's online. It's a lot of work. And while some of us can just take it on the chin and go with it because it's our primary source of entertainment and gameplay in EVE, it's not reasonable for somebody smaller than us, or groups smaller than us have folded up pretty much to a man. I mean, like ourselves, Devils are one of the smaller groups operating in high sec and still war decking. And it's largely because we're very dedicated to what we do, and it's exactly the kind of gameplay we enjoy doing anyway. We just have to kind of step it up a little bit, and do more research and so on and so forth about our targets. But it's a hell of a lot of work to expect anybody that isn't a dedicated PvP corporation to do. It's way too much work to expect a small group to throw together just to try and find somebody else. What I've seen anyway.
The declaring war on a newbie corp thing is a really stupid question. Like, newbies aren't good to shoot at. They don't have nice things to blow up.
Extremely boring.
Okay, well, more to the point, maybe not newbies, but people who, are really crap at the game, which is like most people, which is like a good chunk of the people in high sec.
I'm going to actually chime in and say that you can use that defense, but I have been part of at least 3 different public newbie organizations, and they are constantly war-decked by some of the big-named war-deckers. So, yeah, people do pick on newbie corps if they come up on their radar, because it's easy, cheap kills.
It's generally due to their size and presence in high sec rather than anything else, right? If you have a large presence in high sec, you get war decked. You have a large number of people flying around in high sec, you're going to get war decked.
Okay, so do you feel that that's a good way for the system to operate, in that if you have a large presence in high sec, you will be war decked? End of.
So,
I think you should be allowed.
you're not getting war decked because of anything you did. You're just getting war decked because you present a good source of targets.
You have to understand, by the way, guys, that these questions aren't just me taking an opinion and me trying to project my opinion. I'm just trying to get you to defend your own beliefs. Just throwing that out there. I am pretty much always the contrarian, no matter what roundtable I'm in.
That's
Yeah.
fair.
Although, I have Wardec'd newbie corps before because I thought they were being run badly. Like, there was one, the name of which I don't remember, it had about 150 people in it. I Wardec'd it because I thought their leadership was incompetent and that they shouldn't be teaching new players.
The old Rebel?
No, not Rabble.
No, the one before Rebel took over.
No, I don't think it was them either.
You've got to be careful, because if you say there's no war decks on newbie corps, what happens if people are using those as alts, if you know what I mean, just to scout systems and things like that? You'd want to be able to war deck them.
If it's a contract, I don't care who they are. If it's a newbie corp or big Nullsec alliance.
Are you saying people don't shop .land?
Right, but how often are they
corpse
being
and
war
shoot it?
decked because they're being used as, scouts for somebody else, versus how often are they being war decked just because
For
they
me,
have
there's a
targets?
cost to war decking groups, but I don't think that should be taken away. Personally, I don't think the system is broken. I'm quite happy with the system. There should be more to offer for the newer player in understanding what they've got themselves into, if you see what I mean.
I agree with that. It would be nice to have a better source of information for this sort of thing.
What do you mean they've got themselves into? They don't get into something. You guys come after them.
Well, that's part of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, part, but not part and parcel of everything. It's not the gameplay that everybody wants, which is why people hang in the NPC corps.
People don't really go after groups that are just new players. If they go after a group that has a lot of new players in it, it's a group of new players who are allegedly led by somebody, right? And they usually have a lot of people. But the people who are in those leadership positions don't do anything with that massive amount of new player manpower that they have to teach them about how they should go about operating in this war environment, other than all fucking hide, which is stupid. Like, if you've got a bunch of new players in a game that is a PvP sandbox game, and your response to them being faced with unexpected PvP is for them to run and hide, your leadership is fucking terrible. And you should not be running that corps.
What is the right answer there? What should they be telling their new pilots to do?
Yeah, I would like to also bring up my personal experience with Wardeckers, which happened in 2009 when I just started the game, and I made a little 3-man corp with some guys I met in whatever shitty fucking NPC corp I was in at the time. And in about 2 weeks, we got wardecked by some other random, smaller, high-sec wardeckers. And we tried to fight them off, didn't work very well. We got farmed pretty hard. And then we just said, okay, well, we just went undock for a week. Didn't undock for a week. They stopped wardecking us. I don't think that's a healthy way for the game to operate, to be perfectly honest. And I don't know how that you can possibly change that sort of thing.
I agree. What is a bunch of newbies supposed to do if they're not led by somebody with a heavy-duty ship? They go out and all they are is target practice. And you say, I'm shooting all you newbies because you got a bad leader. Die, die, die. You're telling me that's gameplay?
Pirate got utterly plowed by fleets of thrashers, dozens of times.
Exactly.
Over and over
Yes.
again.
Oh yeah.
Don't underestimate newbies.
No, definitely don't. But what I'm saying is that you're expecting all newer players to be in a large newbie organization, and by and large, that's not the case. Newbies think they're a lot better at this game than they actually are, so they have these small little social organizations, and those are the real victims of the downside of war decking, in my opinion.
There's a difference between the current environment and the one that existed a lot earlier. In the time you're talking about in 2009. A corporation could only declare war on three groups at once. It cost them vastly more to declare war on an alliance rather than a corporation. So you are much more likely to end up in a situation where a small group of people declares war on a small group of people. The current environment, it's not cost effective to do that. So
how would you feel if there was a minimum size for a corp to be deckable? So small social groups, say 5 or 6 friends could be safe, but if they start growing, then they become targets.
No, that's bad because
that would have
if
made
you-
my corp, like my should have checked local, when it was a Wardecking corp, invulnerable to Wardecs.
Yeah, you would need to tie that to other things too.
Also,
would you
the
thi- how would you-
corporations that got farmed were generally larger than small little social groups. Those corporations that were basically punching bags we're talking about are like 80 plus members minimum.
Yeah, the random recruitment. I see that a lot in rookie help chat.
Yeah, now that's like, yeah, there's only so much you can do before you come across one of these corporations. Like they're all over
And
the place.
you can see them if you look on like EFU, their corps like that are the ones that have like high join delta. Like lots of people join it very quickly. And they have like no apparent leadership. There's like no direction. And the end result is they get farmed because they're not trying to do anything sensible. It's poorly thought out corps, and then they get exploited.
But
I don't think it's possible to avoid it.
that goes back to my original point, which is that the defender has no objective. The only objective from a defender is to avoid being killed. Like that is the only higher end goal that you can possibly have, is to just survive the week. At best, you can maybe kill a Tengu or something that hoped to kill you, but really that's not a victory. That's just like that's bloodying the nose of the aggressor. And maybe
that sounds like a
angry.
victory to me.
Well,
Yeah,
no, but it's not an actual. There's no victory. There's no objective. You can't say we now need to do this because we are Wardecked. The only thing that you can tell people to do is just to avoid fights.
What
But
could
the
the
same
defenders
is
do that
true
would
for
stop
the
you from
aggressor.
war decking them? Aside from paying you off, what can they do that would actually end the war, aside from paying you off or running and hiding?
Be too threatening to continue.
Have you ever
being
backed
at war
away
with.
from a war where they actually shot you too much?
Yes.
Which
Yes,
one?
lots of times. Well, not lots. Several times,
Ah.
particularly when we were a new group. When we were a new group,
now.
and when it was possible to retract wars.
Yeah, now.
Like,
Do you back
now,
literally never surrendered.
now there isn't
Because we were
really a
beaten at
very good
something.
way to end a war. Mechanically, within the game, there just isn't. Like,
The other thing that's interesting is that after the big change, they made it so that larger entities are harder to war deck because it costs more to war deck larger entities, which makes war decking smaller entities very, very cheap in comparison. So actually, you're talking about these newbie organizations with 150 people, but what about the 10 people whose industrial got scanned coding out of JITA, and then they just war decked them for shits and giggles?
Well, when it's a difference between the size of like 100 and less than 50, like the cost difference isn't that huge because the base cost is 50 million and it doesn't go up that much up until you get to like thousands of people. So it's like, yes, I don't think it's particularly sensible the way that it scales upwards like that, but the difference between declaring war on 10 people and declaring war on 50 people is literally nothing. There is no difference in cost. So you may as well declare war on a larger group. Although I do agree that it's unfair that it scales upwards like that.
I mean, the cost is there. You know, we spend between 5 and 10 bill a week on wars in that sense, so it isn't cheap.
What if there was a rolling cost that each time you made a new deck, it increased? That way you can have a few decks, but you can't hold 100.
It used to work like that, and it was
Wardeck
okay
fatigue.
up until a point.
we would absolutely need a way to drop wars at that point that were sort of unfruitful, because then you would be full of wars for the next sort of week, and then your gameplay is kind of stopped for an
You
entire
also
week.
have
Wait,
the
why do
problem
you
of
get,
So gameplay gets dropped as
Yeah,
a
I know.
bad thing now?
yeah, why do you get to do that, but then the defenders have to deal with it? That seems like trying to have your cake and eat it too.
I mean, for me, one of the biggest things in terms of war decking is once you war deck someone, as long as they know about it in terms of that war deck mechanic, they can then try and do something about it. They can try and either fight back, or just like we did when we were in Nullsec, you could ignore a fight. Do you know what I mean? And then the aggressor would potentially go away. You know that you're sort of taking away some of the fundamentals of why we play this game in that sense for the PvP.
I don't think the rolling war deck costs would work anymore because of the fact that now, unlike previously, when corps drop from alliances, it generates new wars. So you would be able to artificially inflate someone's current amount of wars by dropping corps out of an alliance, or joining a corps to an alliance and then dropping it back out. You'd be able to artificially inflate the cost of another group's ability to declare war.
Right, but that's just
trivialize
implementation
griefing.
detail.
You could grief mercenaries by doing that.
That's just an implementation detail, though. It's something that would have to change if you did go with that idea.
It would mean you'd have to you'd have to add some kind of flag to wars that were declared versus wars that were like incidental.
Right.
Or something. But yeah, I don't know that would work well. And it would, again, when you have situations like Natural Clone Killer described earlier, where people would hop between different corps that had declared war on someone that had declared war against a group that had a structure that needed to be killed, you would have continuously escalating costs to declare war on each one of those groups as they hop between them. Like that gameplay that resulted from that would be really shit. I think it worked under the previous system in, like, when was that? It was like 2006, 2005 to 2013, but I don't think it would work anymore.
I actually agree with you, Tora. There should be a way to end a deck faster, a good end deck mechanic in place. That one is definitely, I think both sides agree on that.
Kind of.
It really depends on what it is.
The defender shouldn't be able to just press a button and say the war is finished.
No, but I'm saying
no.
at the attacker. This is what Tora's saying, and I'm agreeing with him. But in connection with that, if you put that in and then had some sort of hard cap, you can only have so many war decks active, but you can turn this war deck off and turn on the next one. If this one isn't working the way you want, move on and not have to wait out a week.
Well, what's fundamentally wrong with decking 100 groups? That's content, isn't it?
True.
What's wrong if you war deck 100 groups? If those 100 groups are not major groups, but are very, very small, very, very like industrial groups, people who just want to do the very basics of gameplay. I feel that it is a problem if you can just war deck 100 dudes and have no commitment to attacking them, and just, oh, I happen to spot you at jitter, I'm gonna kill you now, bye.
Yeah.
Why is that more of a problem than, say, sitting, like, just bombing through low sec and shooting anyone who happens to be mining in a venture? Like, why is
because you're in high sec and you're not in low sec, and they're fundamentally different people. People in low sec and null sec accept that risk, and I'm gonna
people in Eve accept that risk?
Oh yeah,
Exactly,
no. People accept risk, but there's like high what I think is high sec war secs are non-consensual PvP, and non-consensual PvP is fucking great for the game. It's one of the reasons why I come here. It's one of the reasons why I love it. The problem is that I feel that there is no incentive for you to go out and find and harass these people and make them actively engage in combat. I feel like it's more like war decks in general have devolved into holding choke points, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Yes, this is because our tools keep being removed without any of the other tools that relied on those being balanced.
Here's the problem with the notion that was just said. So you say that you should be able to war deck 100 people because that provides content, but you got to remember, HiSec exists so that industrial operations can function within safety, so that people can mission run in, quite
relative
frankly,
safety.
In ostensibly very expensive, equipment, some of the coolest equipment, quote unquote, in the game. And so when you war deck them, even if you don't go after them, you are suppressing their content for your content.
So you're saying
but-
that your needs are more important than theirs.
I mean, that's not right. Like, if you declare war on someone, you're doing nothing to suppress their content unless you actually shoot them.
You absolutely are. You have turned something that is relatively safe to something that is not safe. And so if 80% of the time a high-sec corporation is war decked, they are no longer able to function as either a high-end industrial corporation or as a mission-running corporation because they're
not
just
true.
suppressed.
You're lying. Like, that's a lie. You are not doing anything to them unless you attack them. If
This
you
is
declare
the
war on
Toby
somebody,
Jumper argument rewritten.
yeah, if you declare war on somebody and you don't do anything at all, it doesn't do anything to them.
Right.
It's just it's a threat.
Yeah, so these guys are bringing out they're moving around large value items and stuff like that. And so the risk suppression is very important to them. And so periods of safety and periods of danger is kind of the cycle in which things are. And so the point is that you're right, that you haven't shot them yet. And so that threat is what keeps things suppressed.
But for me, in terms of this, is just putting on my side of things. In terms of, we've put a war deck in, so they've had a 24-hour notice that they could be shot in high sec. For me, then they've got to make precautions to be able to defend their space. So it's not like in low sec or in null sec where, you know, they're not going to get that potential notice. But what is worse is, say for instance, you're new to the game and you're running around in a freighter, and then all of a sudden 25 catalysts drop on you. That's for me is like, that's the bit that's wrong, not where the war deck mechanic comes in.
Well, let me be
No
clear.
offense, but new players are not going to be in a fucking freighter, mate. That takes like
Although, I did
16
see
months of
someone
training.
post a wine thread on the forum about suicide ganking where he'd been ganked in the freighter and literally claimed to be a new player.
Well, let me be clear. I'm not saying that war decks should not exist. What I'm saying is that if you allow people to effortlessly war deck up to 100 or hundreds of corporations, then for those corporations, the chances of being war decked at any given moment dramatically increase. If it's a non-issue to just war deck every single corporation that comes in and out of JITA, then that actually becomes a problem for the operation of HiSec.
That wasn't a problem a
partly
couple of
true
months ago.
because you're saying hundreds of wars, but you're forgetting here the cost. Not everybody can afford 10 billion a week on war deck fees.
Again,
so
allow me
just a few.
Allow me to be clear. The question was, why is there a problem with being able to war deck 100 corporations? So I was just answering that question.
Well,
And
the
the
reason
answer
there's
is
a problem
essentially
with being
it
able to do
It
that is
decreases the overall safety of HiSec. Like, that's
I
what you're
think
saying in general.
that's a good thing, but
We're
mass
talking
war decks
fundamentals.
yeah,
weren't
like
an
can we
issue.
pull back from the fundamentals here a second and kind of talk about the mechanics as they exist? What would be something that you could change right now, like something pretty simple that you think would make your gameplay better? And I want you try and explain why that's a good thing for everyone involved and not just you.
Completely comment out the entire ally system.
Okay.
I would remove watch lists, or no, not what am I saying? I would change locator agents so that they did not function on offline players.
Okay.
That would functionally give smaller entities an ability to track corporations that have scattered across HiSec or corporations that aren't tied down to one particular system, while also giving the defenders an ability to check one at a time who's online from
Well,
our
you
corporation
understand
and
that would
make a
be-
judgment call on how much danger they are in. And I don't think that would scale too well on larger groups.
For the larger groups, it's all about hunting one particular or 5 particular players, so I disagree with that fundamentally. I know Rocket X and I know how he hunts, and he is the kind of person who will have a list of like 50 to 60 super pilots that he's got logged off, and he'll just convo each and every one of them to see if they're online or not.
But at the same time, that's literally how you That's how you fight somebody in HiSec. That's like the only plausible way of fighting somebody in HiSec.
Well, no, because you have a war. All you've got to do is find them. If they dock up, then that's what you signed up for as a war decker.
Right, but like the entire locator system and stuff is balanced on the existence of the watch list. So like, and that's the only way you can find someone in the massive haystack of HiSec. Like, there's no reason for anyone to be in a particular place in HiSec.
Except if you know that they are somewhere. Like, I feel like you guys have devolved into people who just want to camp very particular places because you know they're going to get a lot of traffic
That's
over
not true.
hunting people down.
That's absolutely not the case.
My entire alliance stopped playing the game because it became impossible to hunt down particular people. Like,
did it become
we all
impossible,
quit.
or did it become too difficult?
No.
The amount of
Generally, it's
time,
not.
like, Natural Clone Killer did some math earlier, which was actually a low ball because he didn't factor in confirming whether or not someone is actually on or offline based on using locators. But it went from like an average of 40 minutes to figure out locations of like 10 people online out of a group of 100 to being 18 hours to figure out with those people are online. Like,
Okay.
it's a ridiculous increase in the amount of effort required.
The same principle applies in nullsec, where you do block off certain choke points. So yes, we're based out of Jita predominantly, but then we're running locates, we're looking for wormholes, we're looking to get around the back of targets, hunt our contracts that people have paid us for. But yes, we're based in Jita or in Amar or Dodi for content.
Okay. So what I'm getting is that the problems are not actually with the war system itself then. The problems are more based around your inability to acquire information on the location of the people who you declared war with the intent of killing.
Yeah, like,
Yeah,
that's the issue with current gameplay. That's the real problem with the current gameplay of people declaring wars right now. It's what causes lots of trade hub camping. It's what causes lots of really big groups, because trade hub camping requires lots and lots of wars. It's what causes pretty much all of our problems. It's all watch list shit.
I must admit, personally, on this one, I slightly disagree with the watch list thing. I think it's the same for everybody. It does make it a little bit harder, but I don't think that making it harder is too much of a bad thing. So yes, you're going to run the locates, but you can look at Zkill to see if they're active, who's active, what systems. There's so much information that you can find out. You can find out when that player actively plays, in terms of their time of play. So there is intel there. You've just got to know where to get it.
Yeah,
That's
but
only true.
We know that. But I mean, if you want to come back to newer, smaller players and smaller organizations, they don't know where to look to get that information. They don't know what to check. They don't know what information is important to know about us. They just don't understand how to gather effective intel on their aggressors.
But isn't that about learning as well? I agree with you. I'm just throwing it out there. Like, I don't know how to move a super around nullsec. Like, I never did the cap side of things. I left null in 2008. It was so for me to go out to null now, I'd need to grab hold of one of these guys who knows how to do that and get that information. For me, we've just got to help out the new player more.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. That's a learning thing. Like, the problem with what you described is you have to use a bunch of like outside of the game and meta tools to figure out like when you're able to kill someone. Like, if you're at war with a group of 10 people, like, and you don't have a shit ton of level 4 locator agents available to you, you're not going to find them if they decide to move. Like, they're going to just move from one mission hub to somewhere else that happens to have a mission hub, and you're never going to see them. Like, people complain over and over again about wars not resulting in kills, and like, that's, if you can't find somebody, you can't kill them. I do also agree, however, that it does go both ways. So, like, the fact that you can't watchlist people use that defensively if they were remotely intelligent. You would watchlist the people who had Wardec'd you, so you would know when it was safe to go out and do stuff. However, without the watch list, you can't do that, so you never know when it's safe to go out and do stuff. So you're much more likely to run into a random person while moving around than you are, say, likely to run into a random person while running a mission.
But how?
And
is
if
the
you're an ice
person
miner,
moving
you're pretty
or-
much fucked.
How is the person mining or moving or mission running using locator agents?
Oh, they're not. They would be using people would use watch lists, right? They would watch list the aggressors, so they would know when it's
Right.
safe to go out, when there's no possibility of them being shot at, because the people they're at war with simply aren't online.
Yeah, because the time
It's the
zone is
same.
different.
It's the same. If you're one of those guys, you've got to watch local. Just like you've got to watch local if you're, doing stuff in null and you're ratting or doing a site and stuff like that.
What I was kind of getting at is that the removal of the watch list in that respect removes the potential for them to be certain that they're safe. Like, because there's always going to be times when there's nobody who can shoot at you online. And in that time, you can go out and do what you want without any risk of somebody shooting at you. But without the watch list, then they never get that certainty.
Yeah, that's what I like.
I mean, that's bad for them, right? That's bad for them continuing their gameplay while they're at war. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. Especially if you've got a merc on merc war, you don't want them to know when your main FCs are online or when you're online. Yeah, I think that's cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about the Care Bear trying to continue his gameplay while at war. Is like, he's fucked as well by the watch list. Like, the mercs get fucked because they can't hunt people, but then the Care Bear also gets fucked because his perception of safety is reduced.
Yep. Am I able to talk in this room?
You are.
Okay, so here's the problem. So the Wardeckers have the ability to prevent people from playing the way that they do. It's on the Wardeckers to actually find the defenders, which really isn't that hard, because most groups have a concentrated location in which their kill mails are going to show up.
No.
So if you see a significant amount of
that's
mining
not
depth
true.
in a specific location, then you probably know that, hey, that corp's probably based out of there.
That's not true, I say.
Intel on
Well,
these
it's
groups
kinda
is
true
really
sometimes.
not that hard. The problem is you're ward decking 250 groups. So yeah, collecting the volume of information on 250 groups, yeah, that's going to be a dickload of work. I totally agree with that. But you've also ward decked 250 groups.
You're missing the point. Like, you've missed a lot of the point there. Declaring war on large numbers of people is an answer to it being difficult to gather information. It means you don't have to because you have a high density of people to shoot at. That's not
that's worked
because
out well
that's
for me. Like, don't get me wrong, it's worked out very well for me because I just tell all my guys that, hey, all I got to do is avoid the trade hubs and, dick around in a wormhole for the whole time, and we don't even have to deal with you guys. And it's worked out great. But that shouldn't be the case. It should be, give me a reason to come out and actually fight against you, and I'll do it.
Well,
No, you
I don't know
won't.
why you don't then come out and fight. It's a situation where you've got a choice, we've got a choice as well. Like, we could try and find you. If it's a contract or certain groups, we'll go out and try and run those locates. Some blanket deck, some deck for, very specific, to go out and hunt in that sense.
The problem isn't when you deck a crap ton of people not being able to find anyone, is when you don't deck a crap ton of people trying to find people. When you don't have high density of people to shoot at, it's hard as hell to find people to shoot at because it's high sec. There's no reason to be anywhere in particular. There's mission hubs all over space, freaking 40 jumps apart. There's ice belts all over space, 40 jumps apart. There's no reason for anyone to be in one particular place. You can just, if someone Wardecks you, you can just move to the other side of space, and they'll have the hell of a time trying to find you. Particularly if you move around from one place to another place, that locate comes in while you're moving, they're not going to find where you are.
But if the purposes of war is either territorial conflict or to alleviate grievances, then haven't you succeeded in that by pushing them out of their space or forcing them to abandon what they have?
Yes and no. It depends whether or not they come back. Like, if you declare war on somebody because you want them gone and they just come back the second you let the war expire, you haven't achieved anything.
The Torah.
And again,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll go. And again, territorial dispute is only like one possible example of what you're trying to do with the war. You might want someone's group to simply not exist, and that's a really difficult objective to achieve.
Yeah, I was just going to ask what the primary reasons for the vast majority of Marmites and complaint departments wars are, because if we can get down to that root issue, then we can work around that. That's what I'm saying. So, Torah, the vast majority of your wars are started for which reasons?
I think 10 to 20% are contracts, so that all depends on what the contract goal is, and 80% is purely for killing people and getting the highest kill million possible.
Okay, thank you.
It's, the money I don't care about. If it was purely about money, we wouldn't spend like 5 to 10 bill a week on Wardec fees, which we're going to lose. It's killing people. It's hunting, especially the hunting part. The killing is fun, but the hunting and finding and waiting and logging off and all that part makes it even better. And if you get tiers, well, that's fun too. But
and also, as a mercenary, your ability to get kills, like just straight up volume of kills, is inherently valuable to your reputation as a mercenary contractor, right? If you produce thousands and thousands of kills a month by declaring war on people, that makes people hire you.
Yep. And the clients that don't know you, they also look at kill efficiency and they'll say, oh, look at them, they're great because they have a kill efficiency of X. People who know you, they don't give a shit about kill efficiency. But new clients, they do.
I care a lot about efficiency.
Yeah, me too, but I'm a perfectionist.
For VMG, it's the same as Torah. I'd say 15-20% is contracts that we hunt and actively go after, and then the rest is there for content and to pad the kill boards in that sense.
So basically, you're just picking targets at random that happen to fly by.
It depends how shiny they are. We scan them, they bling, then we're going after them.
Are you going to declare war on that jump freighter who doesn't use a scout, or are you going to declare a war on that obelisk with a Weber?
Both.
A bit of both.
But yeah.
Yeah, you may get a point on the obelisk, right?
Yeah. What I do normally is once a week I move to a certain area. I sit on the gate. When they pass by me in a nice ship, look which corp they are. If it's not too small of corp, I check previous wars. I check previous wars with other mercs. I see what area they live in. I check the Wardec fees, and then I make a nice list and Wardec them all. After 1 week, I check every single war. If we didn't get any proper kills, or if we got kills but way less than the Wardec fees were, we're dropping wars and we start new wars. And we did it.
But basically, you're saying that the best way to avoid being permanently Wardec'd by you is to not engage, which is something that we see a lot.
Or be in a small corp, because I try to avoid it.
Don't be worth the effort to even spend a second 50 mil on.
Exactly.
I mean, the alternative to not be someone that yields kills is, well, that's not even... Okay, so some groups will yield kills to certain things and not to others. Like, in the time when the watchlist existed, Break-A-Wish Foundation could get an absolute crap ton of kills out of someone that Marmite would produce 0 kills against, because Marmite was sat in Jitter camping a trade hub, and they were avoiding a trade hub. And I would just move all my stuff next to where they live and be up their butts 24/7.
You bastard. I hate you. I'm sorry. I had to say that.
Don't worry, you're not wrong.
Don't worry. You guys still play the game. We all quit, so I think that's where I'm at.
No, you guys just moved over to Overwatch.
Yeah, you know what people are playing? Diablo 3.
Never mind, we renounce you as Eve players.
We want you back, Vimsy.
Yeah.
Not really.
All right, I'm going to rope this back. So we were talking earlier about defenders, giving defenders an option to end the war. What do you guys think of that?
Isn't that called a surrender?
Yeah.
Besides
but
the first
system
render, yes.
sucks. I think the best way to do that is like, I don't think a mechanic where the defender can force an end to the war is ever going to be balanced, because suddenly Vendetta Mercenary Group allies in and everyone's wars are over.
They already have that, though.
Yeah, they do
within
already
the
have
game,
that.
You can end you can end a war by dropping members and closing the corp, and
Right.
starting
But that's
it up
not
again.
what people are talking about, giving the defender a mechanical means to force the war to end without folding their corp, right? And like that will just be exploited by mercenaries just crushing other people's wars. Like nobody who isn't a mercenary who can stick, anyone who isn't a mercenary who could stick 20 T3s on grid with logi, 20 T3s and 10 logi on grid will just like, you don't get to have wars because Taurus says no. And I don't think that's a good way for the war declaration system to work. What I do think would be good is if we could expand on the surrender system so that instead of just being a simple surrender system that has a really unappealing name that means people barely ever use it, instead it opens up something that's like a civilization style diplomacy screen where both sides can table offers and terms, and you can actually achieve like a mutually beneficial, like something that's mutually agreeable.
That would be good.
Yeah, that should be how that system works. And I think they were intended to iterate on that initially and then just didn't, because they forgot the entire war declaration system existed for, 3 years?
So how would you feel about something? How would you feel about if, as part of one of those things, you could have a thing that says, we will not be able to war take you for X amount of time?
Yeah, that works.
I think that'd be like
just
one of the
about
basic features of that.
Like this corporation will not be able to attack this corporation or join in any wars for or against this corporation for a period no greater than 30 days.
Well,
It
2
works
weeks
in
is
principle.
situational,
Right. Because the current is 2 weeks for a surrender,
Yeah,
and I
it's
think
bad.
it's entirely reasonable for that to be negotiable.
Expand the surrender.
Well,
Like either
the
more
problem
or
is-
less.
It's a good suggestion, but the problem is then another corp. Those pilots could basically just jump into another corp and deck them, if you know what I mean. I've seen that happen 3 times in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't think you can fix that.
But no, that has to do with reputation, because Mormat would never go
That's true. Yeah,
after
that is.
people who surrender. We handle surrenders as contracts. When you surrender, you pay us an X amount of money. We will help you with the next 2 non-work wars you got. We will set standings for at least 2 months, well, in most cases, a couple of months more, because otherwise it looks like you're farming them.
Yes, but not
once you-
everybody is Marmites.
No, exactly.
There's
but
always some
once you
people who
get
have
the
no space on it.
reputation, then people know they can trust you. EVE is a lot about trust and reputation.
But I mean, if it's you aren't ever going to be able to fix that unless you make it impossible for people to ever leave their corpse.
No, just
Yeah.
Because I can't conceive of a system where that would work unless you like tagged individual characters, and that would just be like shit.
Cancer on the servers.
It'll just be total cancer. And I don't think anybody really like thinks messing with individual characters' abilities to join corps and stuff is like a good way for the game to function. It's like it's big government. I think it's too much game mechanic interference with people's characters.
Can we just eliminate high sec and make it all low sec?
Yeah, please.
Well, the most players are in high sec, so we could also make everything high sec if you want.
Yeah, do it.
That kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
That was most characters. I think that
And
statistic was. I don't know if
during
it's
that
actually
statement,
representative
the
of
price
most
of Catalyst
players.
rose 30%.
I actually tried to get in one of our statistics. I tried to figure out like how many percentage of those 70% that live in high sec are actually just alts of people who live in null sec or low sec, and like I straight up had a 30-minute argument with Larrikin about how do you define someone whose main character is in null sec. It was really fun and totally not incredibly frustrating at all.
Yeah,
Larrikin, we hope you're watching.
Yeah, Larrikin, hi.
Can I?
I'll word the question better next time, I promise.
I've got to go in a minute because we've gotten up in half an hour. But just to summarise from my perspective, like for me, the war mechanic isn't broken, but we just need to do more to help the genuine new player to the game in terms of the blanket decks that come in that respect. I genuinely see that. I want to help that newer player understand what they're getting into. But for me, we're talking some of the fundamentals of why we play EVE in that sense. And if people believe that high-sec should be allowed to avoid those wars, then that's one side of the spectrum. I think we're at completely the other side. And there's that gap, there's that bit in the middle, if you see what I mean. But definitely more needs to be done to help the new player from our perspective.
So I want to pose a question. What is war supposed to be about?
Pissing people off.
Whatever the wars, whatever.
I'm going to go with what CCP Unifex said in the Inferno, like the lead up to Inferno changes. Like the purpose of a war declaration is to allow anybody in a player corporation to fight anybody in another player corporation for any reason whatsoever. That's paraphrasing, but that's almost exactly what he said. It's for whatever the hell the person declaring the war wants it to be about.
Right, guys, I've got to shoot.
Bye.
So,
And now we know that Vendetta has an op in 30 minutes.
I've written papers on political theory and all that, so it's one of those, like, I'm interested to think on why people war deck. The just because theory doesn't stand up to a lot of things, because just because isn't ever a reason for a war in reality outside of EVE.
This isn't
reality. We've already
game.
had this conversation twice.
This is a game. This is a video game.
Most of it was for fun. 20% was on contract, so that means that those 20% pissed somebody else off.
Like, what is the conflict in a Call of Duty match about?
I'm totally behind. Like, more power to you. It's the other 80% that I'm somewhat concerned with.
Hey, it's their risk if they burn it.
Right, so lots of wars are contracts where it's somebody else's has some ulterior motivation and then they pay somebody else to do it. Lots of wars exist to provide a mercenary corp with a source of kills so that they can improve their reputation as a mercenary group and to provide content for their players.
Max out the amount of wars to 50?
Yeah, a lot of them are for over personal grievances, because I don't like this guy, because I want to blow up that spaceship that I saw flying through here. Like, these are, I want to do some violence. That's what wars are for. That's why
Is
wars
there currently a current max on the amount of wars you can be involved with at any given time?
No. And mechanically,
the wallet.
I believe it is actually a bit integer, so I think you can't have any more than 1,024. But
we can try that if you want.
fucking YOLO.
Now somebody's gonna try and hit that now. I guarantee it.
The most wars we ever done at the same time was like 400 or 500. So I've never been above 1,000.
Reduce it to 50 max. So you have to be more give or take with what you pick on who to shoot. So you'll have to prioritize contracts to achieve certain objectives, and you won't be able to go willy-nilly and just go after each and every nerd you possibly see. You actually have to put some actual thought into who you decide to deck.
But people are already putting thought into who they decide to deck, right?
It's not random.
Tora that he doesn't. He just does it for whoever the wolves are.
Tora is an outlier, though. We're trying to get more on the the smaller war decking organizations' viewpoints here, because
I think generally speaking, like the goal should be to re-incentivize smaller groups so that there's less reason to join Marmite Collective.
Basically, you're trying to say that there needs to be less of a reason to engage in economies of scale when it comes to warfare. Effectively, we're looking for a reason to do fucking like artisanal war decking.
Just make the bigger alliance war deck fees lower. If you lower the bigger alliance war deck fees, I don't care about all these small corps because they're annoying. We have to add them to our alts, etc. So if the bigger alliance are cheaper, which I think should be because they should be able to defend themselves, then I really wouldn't care about all these small corps to Wardec.
I personally think it should be backwards. I think we should completely remove cost scaling based on the size of the defender and make it based on the size of the aggressor.
Yes, I like that.
Yeah.
So it costs a larger group more, and I don't mean like prohibitively more, so that you can't have a group of 200 people wardecking people. It's just something so that it's actually plausible to have a group of 5 people in Rifters, which was essentially how my corp started. It was like me and 3 other dudes with Tech 1 cruisers shooting at people, because back then it cost 2 millionists to declare war. And that was the time where we had to run away from people and retract our wars because they showed up in Proteuses and, oh my god, it's a Proteus.
Are you saying the bigger the attacker, the more they pay?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what
As to not completely overwhelm and raffle stomp people 24/7.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a lot more fair from the perspective of the defender, right? Like, why the hell does the person who has more power get more protection from Concord? Like, that's... As a Care Bear, I can't imagine viewing that as being fair.
Yes, but Care Bear lives don't matter.
So my problem with that is, what would stop somebody from just being like, okay, everybody drop corp, and now the two of us are going to declare war, and now everybody else join back into the corp, and now we have
pain in the
2,000
ass,
people
because
again.
we're not talking about
you know,
the difference between 2 and 10. I think more to the point, we're talking about the difference between 10 and like 1,000, because that should be a big difference.
No, but even like us, we're like, I don't know, 100 something. You know how much work it is for me to tell everybody, okay, Monday everybody has to leave corp. I'm going to Wardec everybody. Then Tuesday, Monday evening, you have to join back again, and we do that next week again and again and again.
And then you just have people
I don't
putting in
think
random
I wanna
applications
pay.
and being spies.
So why don't you just have 2 corps and jump between the 2 of them, and just have one corp being ready to Wardec and have the other corp be the active Wardec?
Because most of us are OCD people, and OCD people don't like having multiple corps in your corp history.
Right.
It also wouldn't work, right? Because you can't rejoin a corp while it's at war for the duration of the war. You've got all that crap going on. In order for it to work, you'd have to have a massive amount of alt corps inside your main alliance, cycle through them, and you would still have to have periods where you had no active wars and stuff. Like, it wouldn't work. You wouldn't be able to do that.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, it's really more of a problem for smaller groups than it is for larger groups. Like, Toro's not going to do that. I know that. Like, most of the big groups have reputations and they don't want to do that.
Yeah,
like the kind of smaller groups that could do it
your
wouldn't need
alliance are a large part of your identity. Like, you're part of your reputation. I haven't left Devils in the last 2 years because I enjoy being in Devils. If it was more economic for us to split up and do smaller things, well, you know what? I'd start ponying up a bit more cash into the cost of the wars, just to keep part of the same group and stay and hold on to the reputation.
Right.
And I mean,
well, my point is that, so everybody here that's currently here are all basically big names in war decking, but you guys are not the only ones war decking, right? So the thing is that we need a system that is enjoyable, or that a system that's better for everyone will also be better for you, which means that we need to prevent other entities that don't care about their reputation from abusing the system as well.
the thing is, if you have a system where a smaller group, like a smaller group is much more likely to pull that kind of stuff, as you see with like people hopping between corps currently and previously. But in a system where cost scaling is based on the size of the aggressor, they wouldn't need to do that. Like, it wouldn't benefit them to do that because they would already be paying the lower price. Though you might get some Russians doing it on large scales, because
Okay, so what else?
Ally system. Oh, okay.
Oh, you can go. No, go with that.
We talk about that a lot. It's generally just not seen as a good thing from you guys because it allows bigger entities to say "fuck off" to Wardecs.
No, it's really good for mercenaries. It's absolutely fantastic. It's made merc contracts like trivial to do, like defensive contracts, effortless. Ally in, other guy goes away. Other guy probably stops logging in because there's some scary mercs have joined. You get paid to do nothing. It's fantastic from that perspective, and it gets used a ton. It's probably one of the most heavily used features of the war declaration system. I think more players in the game probably use the ally system than declare war. It's just really harmful to small-scale groups that try to start up war decking, or non-PvP groups that try and war deck someone. I think it needs balancing. So like an ally joining a war is essentially declaring war on the aggressor, except it's free. Like, it shouldn't be free. And it's near instant, like it's 4 hours. You've got something better than declaring war on someone that's free and faster. Like,
ganking them.
That needs balancing.
So I have another question. Do you guys think that one side, the defenders, the aggressor, have more mechanical advantages than the other, or is it pretty much balanced and it comes down to skill and, well, skills and personal skill and ISK and all that kind of stuff?
Skills.
Well, we did just discuss the ally mechanic, where the defender can all of a sudden go from being a 5-man indie corp to all of the high-sec mercenaries.
True.
In the space of 4 hours.
And the aggressor drops the deck.
The aggressor can't drop the deck, right?
Exactly.
I'd say skills and multiple account preparation, having that neutral logi, neutral scouts, that all plays a role as far as that goes.
It's mechanically speaking, when it comes to the actual fight, there's nothing in anyone's favor. It's completely level. But what results in the aggressor winning 99.9% of the time is the fact that the aggressor picks the target. Right? You're not going to pick a fight with someone who's going to kick your ass unless you're stupid. And that does happen. I think everyone here has probably had someone declare war on them who then got their ass beat. Pretty sure Marmite's declared war on Break-A-Wish Foundation with beating their ass.
Laura, do you have anything to say about that?
Or Break-A-Wish?
Oh,
hang on.
We're dead now.
Yeah. Yeah, Diablo guy players, I know them. Yeah.
Remember that time we decked you for 6 months? Yeah. And you guys decided not to ever live in trade hubs again? Uh-oh.
I think you broke Tora.
It's annoying, but it keeps people sharp. If you never have any real opposition, you get lazy. And it's boring as hell. And yes, it's fun to shoot 10 freighters and 10 more and 10 more, but after a while it becomes extremely boring. And then I'd rather have my ass kicked a couple of times than at least I have the feeling I'm living.
Move to low sec and fight PL.
Yeah, we went to freaking...
Yeah, been there, done it.
Yeah, everyone's made bad decisions sometimes. Like, we went to shoot a freaking Watt squad and Logitech blasters at the same time in Jitter, and that ended really badly. Like, sometimes you make bad mistakes, and
but it's fun. That makes the game.
Can you
fun.
link the war report for that?
No, I'm not in a channel with any of you. But yeah, that went disastrously.
Just looking at a Gina local. Somebody will repost it eventually.
How about you can't shoot anybody at the trade up anymore?
Ugh,
who determines what's a trade
that
up?
would be good.
So any trade hub is out of limits to shoot somebody.
Well, actually, there's a better solution for that. That would create more content. If you could make it so that you can use the command decies in high sec, but only against like an active war target, then that would make hub camping and deaggressing for a redock pretty much an unfeasible situation.
I had an idea for that.
No.
If you give it a scripted targeted script, so you can grab one guy by the scruff of his neck, drag him 100k off the undock, and then beat the ever-living daylights out of him.
Yeah,
you're going to see a lot less people taking around.
The thing is, the problem isn't like the hub camping. The problem is like a lot of them just aren't there for content. They're just there to get the easy frags on the undock, right? And that would force them to commit to an actual fight, right?
Well, whenever anyone is camping a station in any type of space, that's what they're doing, right? They're trying to kill people on the undock.
But you can't drop dreads on people in high sec.
Yes, you can. It's called undocking the rest of your vindicators.
Well, that's a problem with high-sec restrictions on AoE effects and stuff generally, and like it's not really to do with wars. It's CCP's decision whether or not they want those things in high-sec. I think the decision for command destroyers, they said, was based on you could use them to jump incursion logi off, and then incursion fleets would die, as if incursion players don't account for like less than 1% of the player base. Like let's not have this anti-station hugging mechanic in high
There
sec.
was also the thing that you could basically just like you could chain 2 or 3 of them and just like keep people off of a jitter undock if you really wanted to, and it was like absolute cancer.
Yes, but that's just an extension on bumping.
No, it wasn't just bumping, because you're because you know where people are going to be warping to jitter station from. You just have like an MJD as there, and you just start jumping people off for fun. Like you don't even do it to kill anyone. You can just do it, and it's fucking annoying. Basically, it was because
then they warp at 0 and dock.
Flag. Like if you used it on somebody that you weren't actively at war with and you got concorded for it, it would be a different thing.
I
well, yeah, it would be
allow MGD decies to cycle in high sec but get concorded immediately after. Yes, I'm up for that.
Or alternatively, they only work on people that you have a legal right to engage through either being at war, have them having a suspect timer, or you having a limited engagement with them. Those are the 2 ways I could see it working.
Yeah.
Whoever
At the end of the day, I'm worried about like what you're saying is yes, you could make command desis work, but it's gonna take like a lot of coding to make it work. What I'm talking to you guys about is like basic stuff. Like I'm not gonna say that, but what I'm saying is, hey, this shit's hard to do. We've seen them break the game over a lot simpler changes. So what I'm trying to get to is let's look for the simplest possible. Yeah, let's look for the simplest possible solution here. Okay.
I think the easy ways to like make it better would be to reverse cost scaling in the way I previously described. Make the ally system.
Oh yeah, I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, ally system more costs involved in bringing in allies, or alternatively, make it work in both ways once the defender starts bringing in allies, because that's a defender's decision to escalate the war, right? They're unilaterally deciding, I'm going to make this war worse by bringing in more people. Perhaps when they do that, that then allows the ally to bring the aggressor to start bringing in allies. Which would be interesting, because you would then have continuously escalating wars, which I think everybody thinks large-scale wars in high sec would be absolutely hilarious.
Yo, fucking escalation theory.
Somebody hit him.
Hey.
Yeah, but I wrote a kind of a lore war idea based on escalating walls, which I felt it got a positive response.
No offense, but your accent made that really hilarious, because I heard ever escalating walls for a second there, and I was like, Trump, is that you?
It's all right, Jen, it's cool.
Daddy, is that you?
One problem is you will always get a negative response from Care Bears whenever you say anything, like, the particular variety of forum Care Bears, whenever you say anything about, I want to make wars more fair, and then it's actually more fair, rather than massively biased in favor of the defenders. They always
I'm not convinced
but who
that
reads
those
the
are actually
forums
real people.
Yeah, who reads the forums anyway? Everybody knows CCP spends most of their time on Reddit.
Yeah, forums are a fancy way to say Reddit, right?
Hey guys, sorry I joined late, just stopping in to see if anything was still going on here. Apparently it is.
Yeah.
We're still arguing about possible ways to balance it, and basically the only thing we've agreed on is scaling the prices, and that CCP likes Reddit more than their own forums.
And some conditions for defense.
I don't know what you just said.
I guess that was Commander Eze. You need to get closer to your mic, brother.
Sorry, I'm on a phone. Win conditions for defense, please.
Yes.
Okay, how about win conditions for aggressors?
What do you win as an aggressor, though?
I want to force their corp to disband.
Yeah, that sounds good. And they lose more.
So you want that. So what would stop them from just immediately reforming their corp, though, if you force it to disband?
Okay, I want the CEO to not be able to reform a corpse, or all the members of that corporation to not be able to reform a corpse for a predetermined period of time.
Holy fucking shit! No.
This is equivalent to them having
mechanics.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying, if they get like defense objectives, I want attack objectives.
You have attack objectives.
Yeah, which are determined by me.
About like inability to use like station repair services or something?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Like, I don't mean to like pull it back to what the Entosis Wars and Nullsec are, but like that's something to fight over. If you can't use repair services and stations, insurance services, clone services, that's something that people might actually undock for.
I think
more would just die. So
I think the objective idea is bad.
How easy are you finding taking out high-sec citadels?
Depends on who you're at war with.
Yeah, but I mean, if it's even a reasonably sized corporation, they can hold that citadel. Am I wrong? And high-sec.
I don't know how many citadel attacks Marmite does.
No, we don't do it because the downside of war decking a lot of alliances and corps is that if you think, oh, this citadel is just a 4-man corps, but let's kick them in the ass and it's easy and laugh about it and having fun, having a beer with it, you forget you have 99 other wars that could drop you. So the more wars you have,
shooting citadels in high sec though.
Yeah, the more wars you have, the harder it becomes to do structures.
It's really difficult with the numbers of people that corps in high sec tend to have, like, and the fact that you don't have capitals. It's you need to do like capital amounts of DPS to these structures without capitals.
Bring locals back to high sec.
Yeah, like the citadels in high sec. Like, I can't imagine how anyone will ever kill a fucking keep star in high sec.
Yeah.
Well, usually by
It's
ganking the
impossible.
crater that tries to anchor it.
Yeah, it's impossible. Like, just because of like when you factor in the way time dilation affects citadels, no one will ever be able to field enough DPS. I don't think citadels are well balanced for high sec. I think the worst part of it is the fact that their anchoring timer is is like 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
So you have, in order to be able to kill it while it's anchoring, you have to declare war within 15 minutes.
Make
being
citadels
anchored.
shootable under suspect condition in high sec.
Possibly while they're anchoring. If you can shoot them and gain a suspect flagged while they're anchoring, I think that would be very fair.
Or during their vulnerability timer as well. But then again, that could just be hundreds of people coming in to shoot high sec ones.
I think that would just be a clusterfuck, honestly, because like you would
really
never
have
do
to
that.
have the defenders at least know who's going to shoot at it, though. So I don't think like that's really a good idea. Otherwise, it's just going to be a nightmare to put up any citadel anywhere in high sec.
Yeah, I agree.
Because you can't really defend that citadel because it's not going to have weapons or anything like that until
The
it goes
alternative-
online, right?
Well, yeah, well, that's one of the things that CCP actually came out and is currently asking people. I remember they posted it where they're considering allowing you to fit things during that 15-minute window.
The one thing I can think of regarding them not being attackable while they're anchoring because wars need to be declared is like either increase the amount of time they take to anchor in high sec, which I think is kind of justified because of the trade-off in safety that you inherently get in high sec. Or
you still have the vulnerability windows. You know,
30
you shouldn't be any more vulnerable deploying it.
I was
Why
thinking
don't-
but you're less vulnerable while deploying it, right? In high sec, because
Why don't you
someone
just
needs to
take it
declare war on
and make
you
it
so they
something
can
that
shoot it.
generates more content? Why don't you make it so that you can have one type of each citadel in a system? That way it actually drives people to want to take down like the Fortizars near Jeddah or Amar to set up the next offshoring trade hub, right? That would
No,
actually
that's
drive
the
and
thing.
push content.
Because when these systems start to get concentrated with everybody having a citadel that's undestroyable in high sec because 5 people can defend it against 50, where did they draw the line at putting a cap on a high sec system? That's the
I
only
think
thing that's
it's
going to
more
drive
likely
war.
that the citadels would be rebalanced in that case if it was that bad. Right now we're still in the very, very early parts of citadels. We haven't really got any huge levels of theory crafting, but you know,
Citadels automatically unanchor after 6 months of 100% inactivity.
Yeah, something like
Like
yeah, that
100%
I'm
inactivity.
pretty
goes,
sure something
goes
will.
for bosses, yeah.
So everybody gets tons of free citadels.
If you're not using it for more than 6 months, you should not have it. So you're
or
just
two
blocking.
or 2 months of being completely unfueled.
Yeah, 2 months of being unfueled.
Yeah, something like that.
That'd be reasonable, I think.
The
What
amount
about
of the
NPC
time, I don't
drifter
care how
attacks
much it is.
on
But
player-owned citadels?
Well, you can't do 2 months being unfueled because some people.
Well, what
have
happens is then they'll have to justify that for no reason.
They shouldn't have to justify just if they want to have a place to stash their shit. Like that's part of the reason citadels exist. I mean, don't forget that like refining is going to go away from citadels as well, and the only thing you're going to have is markets and clones unless they want to introduce new services. So I mean, the fueling wouldn't work. The activity maybe.
Those get hijacked by drifters.
Don't know about the drifter stuff.
They just become
NPCs are
unclaimed,
rarely-
like an unpiloted ship, and anyone can just fly up to it and get into it.
Flying citadels, that would be funny.
Reminds me of some good times on Sissy.
Flying citadels?
You don't remember? You could warp them around through fleet war mechanics. Yeah, somebody post a picture.
I think the real problem with citadels is the fact that you can't shoot them with capitals in high sec. Like you inherently can't because you just can't have capitals.
Yeah, but they can't fit bombs or AoE weapons either.
I think the
Right,
problem
but
is
they still
their own
use capital
projection
levels.
against your fleet. I think that's a bigger issue.
Yeah, they also can't fight
I mean,
either.
people say Logi's a force multiplier. They've never tried to fight a citadel. We tried to take a fort down that was defended by like 10 guys in Aquarius. We had like an 80, 90-man fleet, and we failed horribly.
Like us and Vendetta tried to take down one that was defended by pretty much just 10 guys just in Falcons. And like between the Citadel's jams, the Citadel's newts, and them jamming the crap out of us, like between us and Vendetta with like 20 people plus Logi, it was like
Yeah, they're massive force multipliers, and like the DPS cap, I don't think that's the issue in high sec citadels. I think that the issue is their projection against your own fleet, because they can really, really muff up your fleet.
So even when people shooting posses, the problem with posses was never the damage that posses do. It was the freaking capital newts and the fact that they can newt you and jam you like with ridiculous amounts of strength from like miles away. It's like severely limits the types of ships that you can plausibly use to attack it. It's just
significantly increase the fall off in optimals, or rebalance those significantly.
Maybe like citadels. They're kind of icky because they have this ridiculous range on all of their modules, right? And you can't warp off them because you have that weird timer that you get where you're instantly scrammed by them. Yeah.
Make that 60
I
seconds.
mean, someone also has to command it, though. It's not like bosses where they'll all shoot you regardless. But to be fair, boss mechanics were retarded anyways.
Yeah, that is true.
Does a citadel not attack?
There's a reason they're going away. No, they don't attack if they're
unmanned. There's absolutely no offensive capability of a citadel.
And they can't lock out past 250 kilometers, if I remember correctly.
The real answer is fuck the police, capitals and high sec.
Real answer is stop being bads, just get in slippery peats and hit them where people can't even touch you.
Don't be bads and caps and high sec. Agreed? Say aye.
Yep. Caps and high sec.
I wouldn't mind dreads and high sec if they could only shoot structures. I would be fine with that. I don't want dreads sitting on the Jedi.
Or other caps.
No, I was going to drop my high angle Moros on Marmot.
Someone called my name. What do you need?
You don't want to fight a Vendetta mercenary group Titan sitting on the Jitter Undot.
Pretty funny.
High angle gun Titan sitting on the Jitter Undot.
Yo, I prefer a BFG Titan. Fucking just like blam.
Well, what about a whole new ship class that's only for high sec that's capable of doing all
Oh God, we don't even have all the
somebody hit him.
structures. We don't even have the structures yet, and you're asking about like a completely new ship that doesn't exist.
Like just it
to
can
be
only shoot
perfectly
its
honest,
structures or something.
I would be super down for like a battleship version of the stealth bomber that used only cap guns and couldn't fit horse, specifically for the point of shooting structures. But that's just me.
That has ramifications beyond and may actually be awesome.
Yeah, I think that would end up probably being unbalanced in other types of space.
Somewhat.
But it would be fantastic for high sec. Our gameplay would be dramatically improve, fucks up every other type of space.
Just give it like a 90% tracking penalty, and there will be no way that anything can possibly hit it. Hashtag famous lost words.
Yeah.
So the Tech 2 version of the Tier 3 battleship with capital weapons.
I'm
With,
just
like,
trying to
get
imagine those models, like those 3D models. Those would be hilarious.
So has the issue of alphas in a Wardec been discussed, guys?
Say again, alphas?
As long as you can
Yeah,
hit
alpha
something, it
clones.
Under what
matters.
context? Under what context? I'm very interested about that.
Alpha DPS or alpha characters?
Alpha characters, alpha clones.
No,
What about them?
I mean, say there's a CEO, he's created the corporation, fills it with alpha clones. Tora Bushido comes along and Wardecs these guys for 5 weeks straight. Is that griefing?
How is
No.
that any different from filling a corp full of newbies?
He's not paying for those clones. CCP doesn't care about him.
Yeah, but how is that any different from the issue we discussed earlier about new players? It's absolutely no different. New players generally don't make good targets.
They
Alpha
also
clones, by
statistically
virtue, will
don't
not
get killed
hold
very
those.
often in wars.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's going to happen anyway. Like,
Yeah, they're
but,
not going to be
I mean,
flying anything worth killing.
I just mean, probably if you look at the CCP statistics on like new player ship losses, the amount lost to legal ways of being destroyed is like only slightly larger than suicide ganking, which is infinitesimal compared to people like getting blown up in low sec. It's like it's a non-issue.
But regardless, why should they be coddled more than any other new player? Like, I mean, like if I let my sub lapse for a month or so and decide to fly around, should I be treated any differently from anybody else? I mean, alpha clones, I really don't think it's going to be that much of an issue. I don't think they should be treated all that much differently. They can drop corp, they can leave the war at a moment's notice if they choose to. If it's too much for them to handle, they can just nope out of it at any time.
Yeah, but isn't that a current problem with the war deck right now, that anyone can leave a war and that's it? Happy?
No,
Well, it's high sec. It's high sec. You kind of can't do that.
You
can't.
leave a war, you take the war with you.
Yeah, but if
people
you
should
drop it
be-
into NPC Corp, then But that's the same. Anyway,
People should be
I'm-
free to leave their corporation if they want to leave the corporation, and like don't think anybody who declares lots of wars has ever been under the impression that when you declare a war, you're declaring it against the individuals in the corporation. You're declaring it against that corporate entity, which is one of the reasons why the cost scaling thing, as being justified as you're paying for targets, never made sense. Like CCP Soundwave said that a lot, that you're paying for targets, and I don't think that's how anyone ever viewed it. So you're paying for a war against that corporate entity, not against the individual members.
I'm just kind of curious. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, what if they were to break it down more decks in terms of like you basically buy into your capabilities? So like you can buy to only attack play. I mean, because you're talking about like one of the problems is that like Poco Corps, for example, they have like one person in them or two people, and they might be legitimately two people that own like 20 Pocos. And you're talking about like costs of stuff. What if you broke it down in terms of like what you can attack? Like you buy in to attack Pocos, you buy in to attack Citadels or something like that. More selective ability instead of just all or nothing.
The problem with that is
wouldn't
like
work,
I buy in to attack your Pocos, and then you come to defend your Pocos, and you can't.
Why wouldn't you be able to? Obviously, if they attack you, it null and voids the contract then, so you can just open fire on them.
So what? So how would that work? Like the aggressor can't shoot any ships, shows up to shoot this Poco, and there's a fleet sitting on it.
I mean, obviously the buying in the ships would be the base level, and then you can increase what you pay or whatever. It's just, because I'm trying to think of like ways you can. I understand what you guys are saying, where it sucks because you got to pay a shitload of money to a corp that's one person or something like that, or
and then someone has to eat an alpha before you can fire back.
Yeah,
I think that would be like excessively complicated and not add anything.
Agreed.
Just spitballing. It's fine.
It's good stuff. Keep it going.
Okay, so I'm just going to throw something out because I saw Tora post it too, but what do you guys think about the idea of adding social corps, like either as something that like is an alternative to corporations or something entirely different from corporations, but is
I put a good bit
Essentially,
of thought into this recently because I was very against the idea when it was initially tabled. And what I think would be a good solution would be better NPC corporations rather than creating a new level in between NPC and player corporation. So say, for instance, if myself and my mates all roll different race characters, if we could all corp hop into CAS or into a Mars Civil Service or whatever. That way we can all be together. We can all kind of start functioning as a corp because we've got the corp chat. We're all showing up the same as the overview. Or then if you wanted to subdivide that, even if you wanted to actually mechanically introduce something, you could sort of make a sub-corp division whereby yourself and your lads could have you get an extra channel or whatever, you get a name and whatnot. You're still technically NPC.
I actually really like that because that actually solves another issue that a bunch of people in CSM have brought up, is the fact that, like, especially for alpha clones, since they're race locked, if you start out as Caldari with your buddy who's also Caldari, you could easily be in completely different systems when you start.
Theoretically, though, as well, it could also result in better, healthier corporations coming out, rather than one of the issues that was brought up earlier by Mike about basically all mercenaries raffle stomping brand new corporations. Essentially, if you could get through that little baby phase while still under the umbrella of the NPC corporation, you could then go out into the wider world with a bit more fucking knowledge in your head about how corporations interact with one another and what being part of a corporation actually means and what the mechanics are, essentially. And then hopefully you wouldn't just get farmed on the Jita Undock or on the perimeter gate or wherever that tends to happen.
I think that's a good idea. The ability to hop between NPC corps is like, that doesn't have any negative consequence as far as I can see.
Don't see it. Like, I mean, I can understand why it was there initially, as a bit of a stick to get people to join player corporations. But people are going to want to do that anyway. They're going to want to have their own name. They're going to want to make their own reputation, and they're going to want to make their own mark within EVE. So if you keep the current NPC corporation restrictions on sort of these subdivisions of corps, of NPC corp, the carrot is still there to incorporate and become a real corporation, but they're not just walking into the open jaws of whoever happens to be on their undock,
Yeah, I think the other suggestion that was good was the one from Steve Runken. I don't know how to say his name.
Roniken?
Yeah, that guy. Was social groups not being a type of corporation, because I don't think it's a good idea for them to be a type of corporation, because if you have a type of corporation, whatever it is that can't be Wardec'd, that will supplant the regular corporations as the primary form of corporation in HiSec.
I don't agree, because if social corporations should not be the same as normal corporations. There should be a lot of things they can't do,
restricted, just like an alpha clone.
Restrict structures, restrict the size. You should have a lot of restrictions. Do something with the tax. Just make it nice for smaller groups. But once you are a serious corp, you just want to become a normal corp.
Well, I think the core issue there is really that NPC corporations are horrible places to be right now. They have been that way since I joined, and for every single alt I've ever rolled, I've spent at least a day watching the NPC corp chat, and it's always a train wreck.
Yeah, I can't stand having my NPC.
It's really awful. Like some of the things that that newbies are told that is the case.
Just wrong. It's just answer.
Yeah, it really is. So one of the ways I think that could be addressed also is if when I drop, say for instance, if I dropped from Devils and then wanted to go check out what's going on in CAS in the corp chat, I could do that, and then I could leverage my reputation for posting in the newbie section on the forums or whatever to basically just say, well, this is true, that's not true, this is whatever, and then give advice there as well. And now I'm not trying to rag on CAS specifically here. It was just the first NPC corporation that jumped to mind, but I would like I would like to be able to bring a character with a reputation in there and try and help, sort of give advice with your, with the legitimacy of your reputation, essentially, and try and turn those NPC corps into better entities for new players to be in. Does that make sense? Or am I rambling?
Like what Steve Runiken's suggestion was that social groups exist as a non-corporation entity. You can be in one regardless of the alliance or corporation that you happen to be in. They're like this meta thing that can be used to associate groups of people that have no official affiliation.
How would you make that any different from any in-game chat?
Well, no, that's the point. Like, basically, it's a chat group plus mail distro list plus membership list, basically.
You might want like a calendar group and stuff.
I mean, you can already do that. You can make a specific mailing list that people can join. And you
right,
can
but this all is one. Like, you join the social group, and that gives you access that you automatically are put into those things. Just like when you join a corp, you automatically go into corp chat, you automatically gain corp distributions, all that stuff. But instead of being a corp, it's just like broadcast for reps. You can just join the broadcast for reps group.
I think that's better than the idea of a social corp, honestly.
Well, yeah.
Well,
and I think for a lot of people, it's just like you want a title.
Into communities as a whole, like right now, if you didn't already know, incursion running communities have trouble pulling in people, despite the fact that there's retarded amounts of ISK and people have varying views on incursions as a whole.
They should be abolished.
I was going to say, how much of that is because of the elitism? Because a lot of new people that join that shit, like, if they don't have the right shit, they're like, what? Get the fuck out of here. So, I mean, I don't know. I've seen that.
I run with guys who are in Meta-4 Megathrons.
Then you're an exception.
You're an exception.
Yeah, I am the exception to the rule.
I've run with multiple different incursion groups, and the biggest deterrent they have to new people joining is themselves when they tell people you're a scrub, get out of here, because it's a fucking toxic environment for new people when they join.
It's like conventional MMOs, like raid groups.
Yeah.
So let's use a different example here, because that one's a little bit more hot button than like Spectre Fleet. Spectre Fleet's a great example of this. It's a group of people that want to get together, fly together, NPSI. We want to be able to communicate with them when fleets are happening, when there's available content to be had. Building those communication lines and having a quick way to check those aside from just a chat channel and basically building support for these communities, I think will help significantly in other ways as well. Like, people could run these social corps, quotes around that, through a setup like that. Just buffer, build support systems for those communities. Like right now, there's no way to find, like if you're looking for incursions, how do you find that group? Let's say you're new to the game. Nobody has the information to tell you.
Or mercenaries even at that as well. How do you find out who the mercenaries are without knowing to look on the forums and knowing who to talk to?
Exactly.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. But that comes back to something
we need a
Raz
community marketplace, really.
Yeah. Raz was talking about this before, about where the mercenary marketplace that CCP had initially envisaged. If you kind of expanded that idea to work beyond necessarily just war-decking entities into whatever other sort of community hub you were thinking about, like be it incursion running or whatever else.
I got a question then. How are you going to organize this? Because you're going to have just like one, the way you're describing it, you're going to have like one mercenary channel that everyone is a member of. I mean,
we kind of already have that.
Yeah, we actually, the mercenaries kind of already have that.
So
I mean, it's easy. You put Chromius in charge of it.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, how are you going to organize this and make it so that it's not? I mean, because right now, trying to search for a corp is a nightmare for new players, because it's like, I want to join a corp, and then they bring up the like local corps, like corps that participate. It's just like there's so much shit to choose from.
That
like,
tool is primarily a way to choose Wardec targets.
Like, no. I'm talking about for like joining a corp. So like, how are you going to organize then on top of that? oh, by the way, we also have social groups here. Join this thing, and then here's like 200 like social groups because we all know players all want to. It's the same thing with corps. Like I'm leaving your corp to form my own of 5 or something like that. So people are gonna all make like individual social groups. You're gonna have 100 freaking social groups. Like, well, these are the real industrialists. No, we're the elite industrialists. These are the pro industrialists. Well, we're the real mercs. These are the elite mercs. You know, you're just gonna have a massive list of social groups. Though I'm just curious how you would organize that.
I mean,
violence.
I think that's a player thing to sort out, right? With mercenaries, literally will violence each other until we reach the
You
conclusion.
guys will, but your whole thing you're describing is a way that new players can join and get information on this.
How about adding player feedback into it? Like, so you know, in order for
because it'll get gamed to fuck.
It will get
go
gamed
and
to
say,
hell and
a
back.
member of this corporation, you know, members of this corporation have voted.
Oh, because of the fact, come on, you know everyone here will make a dozen fucking alts to join each other's corps and downvote the shit out of them, just like everyone does on Reddit.
Basically, welcome to Reddit. But how about a list
you know,
of the
just don't be a
verified
goon
slash
and you
not
get
too
outvotes.
shit
It's great.
channels in the MLTDs of given NPC corps, such as certain communities like the help channels or broadcast reps or Spectre Fleet, other verified entities that have at least some accountability. But then again, this is EVE, so basically you're influencing the masses by giving these certain groups more responsibility than the others, which obviously can be gained.
Oh yeah, I'm sure
But-
that Crossing
yeah.
Zebras would love to have their own channel in game that's just like broadcast and advertised.
Yeah, the problem is if you gave some groups an advantage, you'd always have the people who are trying to start new groups that are upset by that because their name's not on that list and they're not going to gain all of those new pilots because of that.
Well, that's what they get for not being important enough.
Well,
And
but
here comes that
makes it very
elitism again.
difficult makes it very difficult to become important because 90% of the people aren't ever going to see you then.
Hashtag should have been here 2003.
Yeah.
Well, saying you should, you know, it's hard to get important. I mean, look at Brave Newbies. They became very important very fucking quickly because
And
they
then they
had a
stopped.
very good structure to teach people.
And I would argue that for every Brave, there's probably 2,000 that didn't do anything.
And is that a bad thing?
I think Brave is
that,
the
like,
exception rather than the. I think Brave is more the exception myself. But
okay, and before that you had Goonswarm, and then after that you had Test Alliance. Please ignore. Like, you always have a new player organization. It's just that only until recently were they actually called that. Before that, they were just called upstart fucking scumbags.
Well, I mean, that's basically what I do. Is I just recruit newbies out of the rookie systems, and it's worked out well for me because I get nice people. But at the same time, you know, I don't recruit in any kind of mass because answering, you know, how do I warp to something 500 times in one day, you end up losing your fucking mind.
and for your service, we applaud you because I don't want to sit there and do that.
I mean, regardless of whether or not it turns out to be a shit show in terms of people finding it, I think the idea itself is like, it's good. And it's much better than the idea of like a separate type of corporation, which serves no purpose except being invulnerable from wars.
So basically,
like, it's more useful to everybody.
So they could incorporate a corp system, but you're not actually in the corp. You're on a mailing list and you join a chat room automatically. And
Yeah,
what
'cause,
else
I mean-
do you see people? Do you see people in your local that are in this thing as well? I mean, because I don't know about you. The last thing I want is more overview options I have to fucking decipher.
It's a freaking option. More options is good.
CCP would definitely argue against that.
So
I think some people just want like a title though.
So social corps between 10 to 15 individual tunes that lose their status as social corps when they attempt to anchor structures, including bullshit like depots and tracked units.
No thanks.
What?
No. I mean, like
NPC.
That's
use
going a little
tractor
too far.
units and mobile.
So
units,
you should
like-
just be in
well,
an
just
NPC
like
corps.
anchoring
So,
things. That's
like, when I
really a
was-
soft. That's a soft way to put a detriment on the social corps, right? Because I mean, every corp doesn't need like anchor a citadel or a POS or something like that. Instead,
So
you
you're
can tie
running
that
incursions.
into operating costs of things like repair services, clone bays, maybe a standings boost for actual corporations when you're running the missions or whatever thing you do that would make me lose my mind.
I don't think that idea has a lot of merit because it's like it's an NPC corp, except with players running it, and I don't get the purpose of it. You'd be better off with a social group like the one previously described.
Purposes, so you can get used to normal corps. You can get a few people in until you're big enough, like 10 to 15 people, so you can train together, so you get better at PvP. And once you're ready, so you have the basics of EVE, then you start a normal corp. And if you start a normal corp, then you can't complain that you didn't, I don't know how to defend yourself or whatever. You got your time in your social corp for an X amount of time, and you got the time to get used to EVE, so you know the mechanics.
I don't think that's necessary.
Well, one of the downfalls to it, one of the downfalls of being in one of these quote unquote social corps could potentially be it's impossible to join an alliance without revoking the social corp status.
Okay, but this is HiSec, right? The majority of corps aren't in an alliances, and alliances in HiSec don't serve a tremendous amount of purpose.
No, when you're a new player, you aspire, you want an alliance, you want to be in an alliance, and if HiSec's safe for you, that's where you're going to make your alliance. It's going to fall and crumble under all the Wardecs eventually.
Okay, so I'm just gonna point out that this is veering way off the realms of like actual Wardecs, and I think is there any like things on the original sheet that we still want to discuss with regards to Wardecs? Because we've been going for like 2.25 hours, and I'm fucking tired. So I want to know.
Shut up.
So the things we can talk
If
about.
you want to be a CSM, you need to.
Jin, can you relink the sheet or read it off again?
You mailed it to me. 1 sec.
Reverse cost scaling.
Can I get that too?
Allies.
So do you think the wars on an average discourage new players? No, not really. What steps can be taken to improve education with regards to the mechanics of wars in HiSec? We talked about how that's an issue. How can we encourage players, especially newer ones, to engage in a war? I think we talked somewhat about that, about reversing the cost scaling to make smaller corporations better at it. Does one side in a war have more an advantage mechanically over the other? We decided that no, but that was a bad thing because we want the aggressor to have more ability to ascertain information, and we want the defender to have more ability to defend themselves and their structures. Do you think there should be a more definitive way for defenders of a war to end a war themselves? Yes, we'd like defending and also victory-based conditions, although they probably shouldn't be tied to objectives. Would there be some alternative to the previously mentioned watch lists? We talked about that extensively, but I don't think we really came to any conclusion, as it's basically just Intel is fucking nice, but how do we introduce something that doesn't screw with like the rest of the game?
Well, there is one simple solution: is that you can see people online if you're at war with them.
Yes, but then you just end up war decking everyone you're hunting. But still.
Yes,
you
but
have to pay for it.
Yes, but those are expensive Wardecks, especially with the scaling implementation.
All right, so real talk. Do you think Rocket X gives a singular fuck about how much it's going to cost to Wardeck every alliance in EVE?
Do you really think the rest of EVE should be balanced around Rocket X?
Exactly.
I mean, do you really think? Well, also
I
really
don't think so.
It's like balancing HiSec around
X out. That's a very bad mechanic to give attackers.
Can we just ban Rocket X? So this isn't a problem.
It doesn't have to be Rocket X. Like the Torah, how powerful would that be if you paid for a war deck and you knew where all 32 targets were as soon as they
not where they were, but they were online. You can see them on your watch list.
So,
well, you are paying Concord.
Same we had for years, you mean?
Yeah, the same way we used to. You know, you would leave the trade on docks, you would go hunt them, you would find where their mining operations are, their pauses are.
Yeah, that's what we all did. That's just why mass war decking became an issue, is because it became the modus operandi for every mercenary in HiSec. Because the amount of work involved to track and find targets that weren't around trade hubs became colossal overnight.
I wouldn't need a watch list. I don't care about the watch list. What I care about is when I run a locator, I want to know if somebody's on or offline. That takes effort. It's not free info. costs me money, and I still know if I should go after somebody or not.
I did the impossible and got a great reception on the forums in the features and ideas section on the notion of locator agents not running on offline players, or feeding back something similar to the way they do with players in a wormhole. You know,
I would almost
it
argue...
just says the player has gone to ground, whatever, can't find him. Sorry.
I was
That
going to
way
say,
you can
unfortunately, the problem with that is going to be wormholers themselves are going to fucking abuse the shit out of that, because I can tell you right
Wormholers
now,
use watch lists already, so
yeah. Well, watch lists are pointless though for wormholers, because they can't see when they pop on and off, other than if you just want to remember, oh, that's what that guy's name
Watch
is.
lists was really important for wormholes, because then you'd know if the guy cloaked up or logged off. You could end up literally.
You're talking to a
dude
dude who actually lives in wormholes.
Yeah, I'm talking about now. I'm not talking about what they used to be. Yeah, watch lists before were fucking amazing. I'm talking about now though. You can't see when they're logged on, unless they watch list you as well, which they're not going to, because they know you probably. I mean, they're not going to. But the problem is right now, if you log off, if you're logged off or in a wormhole, it gives the same response when you do a search agent, correct?
no.
It's like it can't locate them, right?
No, if they're logged off, it tells you where they are. It runs normally.
Right. But if it tells you exactly where they are, it just doesn't say whether they're logged off or not.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you right now, if you make it so that it tells you someone is logged off, wormholers will abuse the shit out of it, because like they already have alts that sit in search agent hubs.
Then only let it work for HiSec.
It already does that though. If you run a
they
locate
do.
on a dude that's in a wormhole, it comes is either in a wormhole or offline or otherwise unreachable.
Right, but the thing is, yes, I understand that. I'm saying though they use that right now, like to see, oh, did he jump out the low sec? Yeah, it says he's in the system. So now if you implement something to tell them, oh, he's actually logged off or he's not, now you've given all wormholers a way to know, okay, that guy didn't log off, he's still in our system.
I think you're misunderstanding.
Yeah.
So
Ralph's idea is that if you run the locate on somebody, it gives it the same result as if they were in a wormhole, just saying that they're unreachable. So you wouldn't know if they had logged off in the wormhole.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I thought he was asking specifically for something that says, like, I mean, I guess that would probably work if it gave the exact same feedback regardless.
Okay.
And that could also be done with 0-0 people.
Yeah, I think
you
the
could apply it
interface
to 0-0
could be
space.
improved on.
Well, 0-0's got local, so they have local, so it's a little different. But yeah.
I have an interesting suggestion. What if running a locator agent allowed a period of time where you become informed if they log in? So like an hour to 2 hours, if they log in after running a locator agent, then the locator agent returns back to you and goes, hey, by the way, finally found that dude.
No. Then you're introducing the notification that the old watch list had. We don't need that, and I don't want that. That was way too much power, and I will readily admit that all of the mercenary community got way too reliant on that little notification.
That one was
way too powerful, and we knew it was way too powerful.
What one was that?
You watch list an entire corporation, and then you know when they log in. You run a locate on that moment, that exact moment, and then you go and fly, and you're ready, and you've got a camp on their outgate ready, waiting for them before they even show up. We don't need the locate notification. We don't need an active tool we don't need a passive tool that will feed us free intel. What we need is an active way of being able to discern between people who are playing the game and someone who's logged off for the last 3 weeks. I don't need to know when somebody logs in, but I need to be able to check if somebody is worth looking for before I waste the next 40 minutes to an hour looking for him. That's the issue. That's why you see trade hub camping. That's why a lot of us don't bother hunting actively anymore.
Ralph, that was very well put. Thank you.
I also don't think that the cooldown times, return times, and the costs of locator agents are well balanced for the watch list not existing. Like, if we're going to keep the current watch list system, they need to tweak those by in pretty extreme ways to get them to still be useful. Like reducing the return time would be.
Well, with the alphas coming, I don't need any watch list or offline notifications, because I will have 30 accounts with 90 characters all over HiSec, which I will stream to one Twitch stream, and I have one big civilian screen where I see everybody moving.
Great, Tora's turned into Big Brother. Thanks, CCP.
Yeah, exactly. And it won't work, and it's free. I already have the characters.
Real talk.
Victoria.
Actually, let me check
that's
to see
scary.
if it's released or not.
So you like that idea?
Tori, you can't do that because you can't log in multiple alphas, and you can't log in alphas and then they
Wait, has that been determined? Has that been? Is that certain?
It's definitely
Yes.
Eula breach.
In the latest dev blog, they announced that
There was a dev blog about that. I just
Yes,
quickly
there
went and
is.
checked.
Yes, there is.
Well,
Yes.
there goes everybody's Catalyst ganking fleets.
Oh yeah, we all know that. Yeah. Oh, trust me, everybody fucking knew that was going to happen.
So, for those of you who are wondering how it's going to be defined, it will be defined by person. If you get banned because like your other friend is playing in an alpha account, just petition and be like, "Yo, my mate was doing on another computer." Basically, just don't abuse the spirit of the rules. You're fine.
Yeah. I mean, they did say that basically any circumventing to log on another alpha to assist yourself is basically breaking the EULA, regardless of how you try and do it. So that includes even if you have like 5 laptops right there set up so that you can have each one on a different one, it's just so that you can get that. It's still.
So what? Eve LAN parties for new bros are banned now?
What'd you say?
Eve LAN parties are banned for new bros.
No. It's because, trust me, the amount of data that CCP has would fucking blow your mind, and it is very fucking easy to tell a group of guys that are just all playing together versus like some guy that clearly is one person trying to multi-box and circumvent. It's very obvious.
You've been warned.
Yep.
Yeah. They know my character's the FC in other alliances with a voice changer. It's terrifying.
Oh.
CP, can you please tell us who Jin's other tunes are? Thank you.
Please no. Okay,
Wait.
so let's get back to the list then, because I think that very, very fundamentally answered those questions there.
Wait, Jin, are you currently using a voice modulator right now?
No, I am just a British cunt.
That's what a British.
Who weighs about a buck 20, wet, soaking wet.
I'm literally, I look like 2 sticks taped to a telephone pole. Do you think that there should be more mechanics changes that discourage, remove, provide counterplay to station games and camping? Probably yes, but it's going to be a pain in the dicta code, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Upcoming changes to neutral links should be safe when neutral logistics go suspect. So that's something. Do you think there'd be any way to...
I'd be alright with basically anything that helps your fleet needing to be in-house.
If it's going to be an area of effect sort of thing, it should affect everyone.
Okay, well that can't happen for obviously reasons about fleet combat in PV, but in EVE Online.
No, but if you but like say for instance, if you're gonna have if you're gonna have a neutral booster come in and drop a lot of boosts, it should at least go suspect in the same way that Logi does.
Yeah,
because it's providing as powerful, if not more powerful, in certain circumstances benefit. I'd be fine with that. I brought my booster in-house. I keep all of my Logi in-house because for that exact reason. I would like the only people to be able to attack it to be the people that we're actually at war with. And it also lays everything on the table for the defender. If then they can very clearly see that I have this there, and it's directly affecting what I'm bringing to the table. Like, so, I don't like I'm not all that comfy with the neutral boosters, along with having neutral Logi. At least neutral Logi becomes obvious once it starts to come into effect. But with neutral boosts, maybe not. And I think that could be problematic, and I don't really think it's fair.
What is that about neutral boosts? Sorry, I just heard the last bit of that.
Because as the boosts will be changing to AoE effects, they should flag just like Logi, neutral Logi.
Honestly, they should have always been going suspect.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
straight
yeah.
away, you shouldn't.
Even before suspect flagging existed, they should have been gaining aggression flag.
This is really interesting because this is a topic that I didn't want to bring up because I just didn't want to deal with. But I'm curious to hear the opinions on that.
Yeah,
It's remote assistance. They should always have been getting flags.
Now,
Yeah,
my
absolutely.
question for that is, how do you deal with incursion runners, because they're going to be using that. So every time
They
they
don't
use
have people.
Fuck them. They don't matter.
No, the simple.
They
the,
should.
the answer
Why
is-
shouldn't they all be?
This is war.
Two things. They don't have PvP timers, so they won't get flags. Like, they just won't get any. If it works like logistics, they won't gain any flags in the same way that logistics doesn't gain any flags.
Well,
Secondly, fuck incursion runners. They're like a protected class in ISEC. Like, ISEC gets fucked because of incursion.
I am literally just telling you what CCP is going to say about this when you guys bring this
Yeah,
up.
they
so
are.
that's why
They're going to say but incursion runners because they're a protected class.
So what about like if a couple buddies just want to go run missions or something, and one of them wants to boost or something? I don't know, and run missions, but they're not in the same.
They won't have PvP flags, so they won't get a flag.
Right.
No,
but
you own.
If you rep somebody,
the problem,
or
though,
assist
is that-
somebody in any way who has a timer.
Right, but the
against
problem
another
though is
player.
that because
You're
the way
not
boosts are going
correct.
to work.
It's they have to have some kind of PvP timer.
Right, but here's the problem: if you boost somebody, there is nothing preventing that person then from doing something. So, for example, if you're gonna go raffle rape a couple guys that you're at war with, you can have a neutral booster that boosts all of you before you attack, and you all will carry the boosts for, I forget what the final timer is, but it's several minutes essentially. So the thing is,
Sounds like a
does
problem with
that-
their timer.
Yeah, the problem. So then, does that mean now that after you boosted them, the booster gets a timer then as well?
That's the same for other forms of.
If that means making entire high-sec incursion fleets suspect, then I'm very up for that.
The thing is, like, it already works. It already works that way, right? With things like remote sensor boosters and other forms of remote assistance. You get that last cycle before your safety kicks in and turns it off when someone commits an action that gives you a timer that would then result in them gaining a suspect flag. Like, you always get that last cycle of the module. It would just be the same.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you can't rep some. It's a little different from reps, because if you apply reps to somebody who's already a suspect, you're going to get a timer. But you can boost, and I see what you're saying with the sensor booster, but it's only like that last cycle, and it's not. It like when I say boosts, I'm saying like somebody can boost you for several minutes if they've got max skills now. So you can have several minutes of just raffle stompage that booster will not be flagged then, but you'll be getting all the benefits. That's the
Why
issue.
shouldn't the booster get flagged?
I think
because the booster boosted before you committed any crime. That's
essentially because the duration of the effect is really long.
Yeah, the effect is long enough that you can commit a lot of shit in that time period while receiving full boost, but the booster can be neutral and get nothing. And that's kind of the issue is, do you flag that person? Then you run into the thing, what happens when someone boosts somebody and then they're just a bad person? They go do something like, hey, I didn't give you boost for that. Too bad. Now you're a suspect. Now I can kill you.
Make the boost not
maybe you
auto cycle.
should have- Maybe you should, have your boosts in-house. Maybe.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I'm not saying I disagree with everything you guys are saying. I'm telling you exactly what CCP is going to say to what you're talking about right now.
Like, what's the alternative? Boosts either don't give any suspect flags whatsoever, in which case, oh well, I guess we'll keep using neutral boosts, and then people will complain that boosts don't go suspect.
Yep. No, I know. It's already been brought up. It has already been brought up multiple times as to what to do with it. I don't have an answer for you. I'm just asking because I want to know your all's opinions on how it would work.
I think
CCP wanted to change the role of it, bring it into fleets more, and bring it closer to the fleet, and not just sitting in a pause, boosting you indefinitely.
So you guys, though, would be okay if they were to make it so that if you boost somebody and while they're boosted, they commit a crime, you receive a suspect as well.
Part of the risk of giving them a benefit and a bonus to help them commit their crime. They've still got your boost. They're still carrying what you've done to their ship.
Right. I heard someone say no, so I want to hear them too.
Let's think about it like this. If you boost somebody and then they gank somebody, they have the ganking of the boost. But if they gank somebody again, if you're boosting somebody who's already a suspect, then you inherit that timer.
Yeah. No. If they're already a suspect, that's fine. That's obvious. That's easy to do. If they're already a suspect, you say, hey, I'm going to boost you. You're already a suspect. I get a suspect too. I'm saying specifically for when you boost somebody before they have committed a crime.
Who's arguing
It's
against
a
that? Then?
pre-flag on anyone. Before anybody's flagged, anybody's at war.
Well, because
or anybody's
Logi
a war
doesn't
target.
work like that either. Like,
So I've got an unpopular opinion, and I want to float it.
It seems to be very apparent today.
Yeah, I'm full of them. So, I'm of the opinion that the war is declared between two parties, and that the current suspect flag for neutral assistance is not the correct penalty, as they're engaging in combat with somebody who's in a declared Concord-approved event.
Sanctioned war, yeah.
Basically, I'm saying in-house everything.
I'm completely on board with in-house everything. I'm fine with in-house everything.
The only thing about that is how does that work then? Because the defender can basically call in, as many people as they want. So.
Well, the defender can only call in whoever they have in their alliance.
They should flag for longer than 15 minutes if they're assisting someone as a war target.
Here's like a super radical solution that I don't think anyone's brought up before, and I'm only doing this because I don't like HiSec and I know nothing about it. How about having neutral logistics? If you, as a neutral logistics, engage in repping someone in a war, that would drop your sex status.
No.
Wars don't involve sex status.
I don't think that.
It's so cheap to just go fix your sex status.
I'm curious though, after what he said, like who here would be against it? If war is required, all in or nothing. Like you can't. Basically, what he was saying, boosts.
I'm against that because people don't seem to understand very often that neutral means a lot more things than they think it does. Like when if you have an ally join a war, that ally is a neutral relative to you. Like if they rep you, they gain a suspect flag.
That has to be fixed though if they make it.
So fix that so allies include under that. Yep.
And remember, when you have a war that's escalating because the defender brought an ally in and you want someone else to come into you and help you as the attacker, you have to have them declare war on both the defender and their ally, and then that person is also neutral relative to you.
Well, they have to open up a fresh war, which they can then again open up to allies for free.
But that's not really relevant. Regarding suspect flagging.
I mean, the problem is, the issues is like what you're saying, like with multiple wars going on. Yeah, you have that was the issue that I saw with the whole if you require everyone to be in the same corp, well, the defenders can call as many allies as they want, as long as somebody's willing to join the war with them on their side. Whereas the attackers, they basically have to try and convince someone else to join or also Wardec, but they're not technically
If it's aiding somebody on the other side of a war, it should be a legitimate target for the people that are on the other side.
Right, but it's not, right?
Really, regardless. It should be.
It's not. How's it not?
I mean, like suspect
flag?
flagging. You gain a suspect flag if you rep your allies.
You don't get a limited.
That needs to be fixed.
It's
I
not
think
broken.
Everybody should agree to that.
I was going to say, I don't think. I mean, what would you fix about it? That they can rep, or that they get a suspect flag? What are you guys going to
That they get a suspect flag, because if an ally, if you're in the same war against the same target, you shouldn't receive any penalty for repping somebody who is also against that target.
But people have multiple wars with multiple different other groups,
Yeah,
so they're like they all become neutral relative to each other. Like neutral logistics isn't this simple thing. It's not this NPC corp character repping someone who's involved in a war. It's this entire convoluted situation. If you remove the ability to remotely assist
I've had a guy
people,
warp in on
it's
me
a
with
mess.
6 different fucking neutral alt logi everything under the fucking sun before, and it's
That's
one of
nice.
those, like, this is like cancer, because it's no longer a 1v1. Like, let's say I
So
go
your
into a system,
space
I see
honor is
one
hurt,
war target.
basically. Like that anecdote doesn't matter, right? It's still a really complicated situation. You can't just shut it off because you don't like it. It massively affects how HiSec gameplay works.
But when we're talking about changing the game, potentially fixing shit that's broken, you can talk about doing
This is Eve. You can't fix it. You just break it in a different way that's slightly balanced until somebody else complains about it a different way.
Yeah, if you made it like the amount of changes you would have to do to the Crime Watch system would be so ridiculous that it would essentially Like when they made the changes to the Crime Watch system just before Inferno happened, the system that existed worked perfectly fine. But the problem with it was, according to CCP Grayscale, it was too internally complicated. Like on the servers, it was too complicated. And when you start trying to fix it in these ways that add even more special cases to who is repping who, you start to undo the gains that they were trying to make by implementing the system to begin with.
Well, what about simply allowing a kill rate on a neutral who assists a war target?
How is that going to help?
Well, ask anybody who's providing neutral reps.
At you can
At
get
any
some
point,
payback.
that kill rate can be activated and their Logi ship, the Guardian, can be blown up.
How is that better than them just gaining a suspect flag?
Because then you
It's the
can
same.
do it at a later time also.
You can do it whenever.
But
at your leisure.
the moment they don't
They've
expect
assisted.
it.
Yeah, but functionally, it's the exact same thing. It's just got a delay on it.
Yeah,
So
the
what
delay
about
makes
the
it even more
idea?
fun.
What about the idea of basically forcing neutral logistics into in-house situations by concording?
That's literally what we just described, right? It wouldn't work because of all of those situations where neutral means something that you don't think it means.
So, for instance, if me and Vimsy were at war with Tora, and Vimsy was attacking Tora was winning, I came along in an Oneros and repped Vimsy, I would gain a suspect flag, despite the fact that I was Vimsy's ally.
Yes, let's change that and make that still neutral to everybody else, except for those included in the war. I think we can agree on that.
I think allies.
That's
But what if
really-
someone I'm at
It's
war
not as
with?
big of a problem as the original Crime Watch system was put in place so that, or the revamped version that we have now, was put in place for the purpose of eliminating the single player instances where this person is wrong, this person has helped them, so they get the assistance to them, so this person can now shoot them too, and blah blah blah.
But it still
created a whole
exists
huge
because
mess.
you still have limited engagement timers. It's just the same.
Yeah, so you're talking about how does this
But
how would all
doing
of this
this on
interact
a-
with limited engagements? Like,
Doing this on a corp or alliance based level is a lot easier than doing this on a massive scale of
But it already worked on a
ships
corporate and alliance-based level. I suppose an individual could be flagged relative to a corporate alliance, but an alliance couldn't be flagged relative to an alliance. I suppose what you're saying is like you make it so that corps and alliances can also be flagged to each other or something.
No, like the way if you activated a kill rate on neutral lodges, so say I was at war with Tora and I went into Jita, his guys had 3 ships undocked, but he had 5 neutral logistics ships. And as I started killing his ships, these guys start repping him. I can't win the fight, but I have a kill rate now on 5 neutral logistics. I can activate whenever I want. It gives me an opportunity and a time to go and even the odds. So next time I go to fight Taurus fleet, his logi might either not undock or might have already been taken out. It can change a war if you
No,
made
it
it a kill
wouldn't.
rate.
Because in both of those situations, his logi is just going suspect. If you couldn't beat him the first time, and you have the same forces the second time, how are you going to win? Even though the only thing that happens when you activate that kill rate is they go suspect, and they were already suspect.
But it's a suspect that you're timing and you're choosing, just as they chose to assist your war target at their own leisure.
Right. In the scenario you're talking about, he's undocking from a station. Like that's not going to help you.
Not the first time.
that still doesn't alter the original scenario where the neutral logi that you weren't aware of makes the difference in the fight.
Yeah, changes the fight.
Yeah, but you get a payback option at least.
Yeah, you get a payback option, but if you weren't in a position to kill it in the first place, you're probably not going to be in a position to take advantage of the kill right in second.
That's true. That's true.
Like, most
Because
people's
the logi's all gonna
arguments
dock together anyway. The
Most
logi's
people-
always going to operate as a unit. You know.
Most people's arguments against neutral logistics they assume that the neutral logistics will somehow not be present if it's not neutral. Like, if you can't kill it when it's neutral, you can't kill it when it's in corp.
Well,
There's no
Yes, but
tactical.
at least when it's in
here's the
corp,
problem with
you'll
that.
see it. And
I
you
was
know
gonna say,
that
that's-
it's there.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the bigger
on the
thing.
table.
Yeah.
That's the bigger
it's
thing, like,
there
when
and
you're in a
aware
local-
of what you're engaging in.
That's extremely important.
Tracking everybody in EVE who has logistic skills is ridiculous. Like,
I think the
that's
thing that I linked
game-breaking.
in Discord is a good explanation of how it should work. So we've got Marmite and their allies against, I don't know, Fags and their allies, whoever's shooting, who are still neutral to everybody else in EVE. But even if they receive remote logistics, remote logi will still be neutral.
Yeah, they'll still be neutral. They'll still be neutral as we fly past each other, and maybe I meet up with another guy and we fly back and we can activate the kill right then. It's much better than a flagging system that lasts for 15 minutes.
It's not. I don't know that that's better. I mean, tactically speaking, in the fight that's happening, it doesn't affect it at all. Like, you may forget to activate the kill right, and then you're stuck with the guy not even being suspect.
You still, I mean, like, yeah, you still get your suspect flag and all of that, but it doesn't address the initial issue where the neutral logistics actually made the difference, which is where you got your butt hurt from, which is when they first showed up and they first engaged, and they first made the difference from a fight that you were winning to one where you got your ass handed to because random alts.
Yeah, the only value of neutral logistics is that it's a surprise. That's the only difference between neutral logistics and in-corp logistics. So it allows fights to happen when someone otherwise might not have engaged at all.
Well, it is that, but it's also the fact that you can't attack it beforehand. You can't preemptively force the logi off as well. Like, I have most of the pirates' neutral logi flagged. I know who they are, and I can see where they are, and I know that they will go suspect if a fight happens. But I can't attack them beforehand.
Yeah, and I mean,
I can't start the fight by wiping out the logi.
Yeah, and I've even witnessed that where logistics will actually hold off on repping until they know that they're needed, specifically because they know as long as they don't rep anybody until it's necessary, no one can attack them.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
that's exactly.
This is true. On the other hand,
Crime Watch impacting actual FC behavior, which is something that isn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
you faded away there.
Sorry. What I'm saying is that it was it's basically like the Crime Watch and War system impacting actual fleet behavior, which is
on the whiteboard.
So am I still fading away?
Yeah.
No, you're fine.
And I mean, while it is true that you can't primary it first until it reps, there is also the case that you can counter it with more neutrals, and those neutrals have like absolutely no possibility of anyone shooting them back.
Right, except for the fact that like
the problem comes in when you leave the trade hubs, though.
Yeah, the other thing too is that, like, for example, most places where you would legit be able to attack, the first thing you could do is take jammers and jam those logistics, which will change the fight. The problem now, though, is like you can't even start jamming until they've already started landing reps on people. Now you can attempt to jam them.
Yeah, but you can have an entire set of neutrals who can't be counted shooting at them. A couple of weeks ago, we blew up like a bunch of archetype nesters as they were trying to kill some people because they were dumb enough to bring neutral nesters halfway across space to somewhere that we happened to be sitting to try and fight somebody. And like, using neutral reps is not necessarily powerful. Sometimes it's a really bad mistake and it'll like get you fucked up. I think it's balanced in that respect that it'll get you killed sometimes. Like, it'll get you completely anally devastated if you do it incorrectly. Or in the wrong place.
Something more even.
Yeah, but the rule of thumb nowadays is that you have to have a neutral logi fleet with you, just in case the other one has it as well.
I had a fight where, for example, we had 2 of our T3s landed on a warp target. The warp target was able to get one of our guys to super low armor. Meanwhile, their neutral logistics warped in were forced to combination of disengage and then have to re-engage because we couldn't get the other guy out. And their logistics was able to sit there without anything running and affect the fight just because he warped in.
Oh, you become suspect.
No, just warping in. He hasn't started landing reps.
Oh, okay.
So we
I mean,
knew
so
he
you
was there
disengaged
for
before.
that purpose, but we were unable to disengage, knowing that we would lose the fight because we couldn't catch the logistics as well.
I mean, that wouldn't have been any different if that character was in Corp, right?
Okay,
Because-
so
Well, yeah, it
it-
would have
this-
because
this-
you
It
could
would
have
because we
engaged
could
that
have
character.
chased down
Yeah, they
that
could have
character
just shot at the
right
I
light.
mean, here, let's look at this from a different
This
perspective. I haven't
conversation is-
actually heard anybody yet say, what's the problem with having your Logi in your corp? I've heard a lot about why you should or shouldn't have it out of corp, but why shouldn't you have it in corp?
That's a pretty obvious question.
Like, people use
There's so
neutral
much power
logic
to having it
so
as a
they can
neutral.
hide it, pretty much.
Of course, but
primary
is
purpose.
that necessary? Does that drive content?
Yes, like that drives fights. Like, people do it because you're more likely to get a fight if someone is
Thinks
You're
less,
more likely to get
you're
a
less
fight that
capable.
people think it. It's
That
basically
probably depends
it's-
on who you're ward decking, though, right? Because if you're
It
ward
depends on
decking
any-
somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, they see like the Guardians or something, they're like, "Oh fuck!" But say I ward deck like Break-A-Wish back in their glory days, or Marmite or Archetype, they go, "Holy shit! We can just drop a couple of indicators and get extra frags out of those Logi."
People nowadays assume neutral logic.
It depends on where you are, right? If you're somewhere that's busy and you hit D-scan and there's a bunch of Guardians on scan, it's like, oh, it's a bunch of Guardians on scan. You're in high sec in a system that has potentially several hundred people in it that may or may not be in Logi for other reasons. So, but if you're in bumfuck nowhere, you hit D-scan and you see Guardians, yeah. But all that kind of thing is like really
But that
circumstantial.
also eliminates the opportunity, or a lot of the opportunity, for the public participation that comes with the suspect flag. So, for instance, in a MAR, yeah, your suspect Logi is probably going to get pegged more often than not because of the volume of people. But if you engaged me in my home system, there's 4 people there, and 3 of them are me.
Okay, well, it does seem like this conversation is going a bit around in circles, so like it doesn't seem like there's any real
I think there's
agreement.
some agreement. It's not very much resistance to a kill rate idea.
Okay, well that's something we can definitely talk about to CCP, like giving a kill right. The question is, how do we decide when kill rights are applied? Is it when, because there's no definitive, oh, I died because of neutral logi? Because you can say that, oh, if someone repped this guy and that guy kills me, then I should get a kill right on that neutral logi. But
Only
that
for
would be
Wardec.
potentially hard for them to program. So we'd have to do it as whenever neutral logi gives reps.
But what do you mean only for Wardex? Like, I can be at war with
Because neutral
someone.
assistance happens in many instances within Eve.
For
And to
example, in
stop-
suicide ganking, it's used to.
Right. Well, there's also another point that needs to be made, which is that the simplicity of the rules is a fundamental design goal of CCP. So every time that you have to say only when X, you're adding another level of complexity of understanding the rules, which they shy away from, just as a heads up.
Yeah, if anything, they're trying to make that a little bit simpler and try and figuring out ways that they can stop having stuff like that. I mean, there's already too many things that exist in this game that there's like no way you would ever possibly fucking know unless someone who has been playing the game already tells you, or you just keep trialing and error. I mean, a perfect example is low sec gate guns. Like, no one in this game would ever know that you can warp away and come back and they forget you. I mean, I'm just using that as an example, but they're trying to get away from crap like that where it's like, no, there's nothing in game that explains that to you. There's no way you would possibly understand that.
Okay.
Anyhow,
So-
go ahead, Jin. Take it over.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say that I think we've discussed everything on the original list. Are there any other real big topics that people think we haven't touched on today?
Just fucking Cursor runners, and that's about it.
Yes, we can all
Okay.
agree on that.
Is there
Yeah,
a
I
way
think we
to add like a part of like the new player tutorials to include Wardex and explaining the mechanics? I know there's the video.
I think there should be. If
but-
there isn't, I don't know.
Like those videos are great because it allows me to just, hey, here's this. I don't have to answer 500 questions that you're going to ask that are answered in this. But coming out of that tutorial, I've got guys that get literally camped into rookie systems by Wardec.
You're talking about the NPE system.
There's an easy way to do that would be to send the videos with the war declaration mail that all the members get.
I was going to say, keep in mind that they already announced that they're completely revamping the whole MPE. They already said that. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Like, they came out and announced that, like, for Alpha clones, they're planning to redo all the MPE. So, I mean, like, that's something that we could definitely say to them.
Does that really work?
It is worth noting, I just checked, I didn't see any videos about Wardec mechanics in the...
It's the original Crime Watch video, is what they're talking about, I think. But yeah, like that, I do think that there needs to be more...
on there.
There needs to be more not player-made educational videos by CCP, and I've been asking to see if they can do something like that for ganking, so it'd be nice to do something like that for Wardex as well. But I don't know, we'll have to see. They've definitely not committed to anything yet, unfortunately. It would be a huge strain on their resources to do, but I'm hoping that maybe I can convince them that it's worthwhile.
Tora, I would like you to Wardec at least 20 new player corporations and see their various reactions and how much intelligence they have based on the readily available in-game materials.
Yeah, just if you could just do that for us, Tora, that'd be really appreciated.
Random?
Yeah, I'll give you a list.
CCP will reimburse you for the contract expenses.
No,
Yeah,
that's
Tora,
okay.
I'll just give you a list. Like, it'll be completely not biased.
Yeah, that's fine. Just send me the list on what I can.
Oh Jesus! If Jin gives a list, I'm definitely on there.
Well,
the Iron Frank list.
it has been absolutely excellent taking part in this. I want to really thank you guys for coming and giving your opinions and expertise and stuff. I absolutely have enjoyed learning a lot about the mechanics, and I've definitely changed my opinion on a couple of things. I really didn't have a solid grounding on the Wardec mechanics, and you guys have very helpfully provided that, and also provided some great insight into what your problems are. So I'm hoping that we'll be better educated to deal with that coming up to the next summit. I'm going to see if we can get a Health of HiSec session next summit, as I think that would be good for the game.
It'll be more time probably to do it then, too.
Yeah, I mean, this summit had another focus entirely, so... CCP doesn't care about Wardex, but we do.
Yeah, we know.
That's what we're here.
We know. It's that it's blatantly.
One thing I'm kind of curious. I'm curious what you guys have for the opinion. So right now, like if a defender accepts assistance in a war, it's like an arbitrary 4-hour wait, isn't it? I think that's.
Yeah. Anecdotally, since we started this, the allies that joined our wars are now able to attack us. So in the space of this roundtable is about the kind of space for
assistance
being being able to engage.
That is to facilitate structured defense.
No, my curious thing I'm wondering then, does that include like if they are accepted as an ally while still in the 24-hour waiting period? I'm trying to remember. Can they attack as soon as it's over? Because I thought the way the wording said is they have to wait 24 hours.
They cannot attack before the war goes live, but they can be sort of on the roster for the war within 4 hours.
Right, but so they can attack the second the war goes live, though, then if it's outside of the 4 hours.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I thought. The way that they have it worded right now is really fucking confusing, because, like, I know right now if you join an ally and it's in the first 24 hours, it'll tell the new ally or the people who join, you can attack in 24 hours. So that would think that it's 24 hours from when you join, but it's not. It's when the war actually finally goes live for your buddy, unless it's within that 4 hours. I'm curious because of the fact that I think the wording is terrible. I also think the 4-hour time window is stupid because it doesn't say that anywhere. It literally does not say anywhere that you can't attack for 4 hours until you accept a Wardec to somebody. That's the only place it says that. I'm curious, do you think that 4 hours should still be there, or should that be modified at all? I mean, what are your opinions on that?
It should be 24 hours.
Yeah,
you think it should be 24 hours? Okay.
You should not be able to circumvent the time for declaring war on somebody by joining as an ally. It is monstrously unfair.
No, not circumvent the timing. I'm saying, like, obviously the first 24 hours they still have to wait. I'm curious. I was just saying, though, in terms of, like, once the war is active, having a 4-hour wait for them and whatnot.
That's not what happens. Once the 24-hour timer of the corp, that 24-hour from declaring the war goes live, then the corp that allied in can also shoot because their timer was shorter. It's not 24 hours on top of 24 hours. It's not 4 hours on top of 24 hours. It's just 24 hours.
As long as they bring in an ally 20 hours into the war deck, they will be able to shoot as soon as the war goes live.
Yeah, but if I join like 12 hours after you were declared war on, I can then go to war exactly in 12 hours then?
Yes.
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 So you think there should be a 24-hour wait then for the allies then from the time that they're accepted as allies?
Yes, because the ally system effectively allows someone to circumvent the war declaration costs and time limit to declare war against the aggressor, right? It's a free war deck. It's a free 4-hour window war deck. It completely ruins the balance of the entire system.
It's interesting.
Well, you can suddenly add 300 extra pilots to a war deck. Well, we thought we were only going to fight 50. By the time the war deck goes live, those 300 extra guys suddenly turned up that we weren't aware of.
Deal with it. You're a war deck alliance.
I was going to say, some would say that's part of when you war deck somebody.
But what if you're not a war deck alliance? What if you're just some random dude who wants to take some pocos from somebody, and then you're fighting free?
Or you're like two of the corps have problems with each other and you want to fight.
Oh god, I will be so happy when they fucking just destroy every goddamn Poco in the game.
Terrible.
We sold ours to Vendetta Mercenary Group. They were more trouble than they were worth.
So, sorry to interject, but I have a story to tell. During an operation a while ago, we recently discovered that if you suicide gank a target in high sec, such as an incursion runner who's under a war deck, but you are in no way involved in their war deck, they will still receive their combat flag like they were in a war deck. So any neutral logistics aggressing on them will go suspect as well. This doesn't apply in any other practical circumstance than griefing incursion runners, but I just thought I'd put that out there for anybody to enjoy.
Well, those things do apply.
Say again?
Those things do apply in other circumstances.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just trying to tell everybody
engage,
listening.
Anytime you engage
have
somebody with reps after they're attacked by somebody else, you gain neutral logistic, or you gain your suspect timer. Which is, in many cases, not right. And in my opinion, in some cases, really not balanced.
Yeah, the entire crime watch system is not right.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
Like, no matter how you think it should work, I don't think anyone thinks the current system is.
It's not how it works.
Like, it is really, really illogical. It's not intuitive. It's
Also,
messy and weird things happen.
Did you know you can shoot a suspect's drones without getting a limited engagement?
Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
No, it's really not when you're the suspect.
It's awesome.
Not when it's a gecko.
Yeah.
My gecko.
What do you guys think about the whole thing where you can go into your pod and join or leave corporations at a time? Like, so people are just gonna hop out and then join a corp that's at war and then just start fighting and people don't see them coming?
It's against the rules. You're not allowed to do that. You'll get.
You're not allowed to do that?
No, you're not allowed to join a corporation for the intent of surprising a war target.
I.e. when you're in space.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
space,
when you're in
but
space
if you have a
with them,
session
you're not allowed
change,
to
you
do that.
can.
Yeah, the session change is the benchmark that the GMs have historically used for that. Like, if a session change occurs, you're okay.
Exactly.
Isn't there a session change when you get into a ship?
I guess so. But
No,
you would be on grid with the guy, right?
No,
There
you'd
is when
be
you-
right off grid.
There is when you go into a station. I think what you're looking for here is the flag, the standings flag in local, as per for like corporations and alliance. So say if you're in an alliance and I'm in local with you and you dock up and leave that alliance, you will still be on in local as a member of that corporation. And then when you fly out to me again, sometimes you still show with the little flashy red thing. Now, Crime Watch kicks in, and because you're no longer part of that corporation, I would then have to drop my safety settings to attack you. But it's still really, really irritating. But that would be it being used defensively. Using it offensively is against the rules. So if I were to get into system as a neutral, join the corporation while in a station, and then fly out to you, that is actually against the rules. As far as I was aware, anyway. With
That's
the express
debatable,
purpose of,
right? Like,
I don't know, but I think I had read something about a GM coming down, treating that very, very negatively.
I happen to know someone who has been reported for doing that and then got no kind of warning for doing that.
Oh, all right. Oh, well done.
Yeah, it's like, it's not me, but the thing about that bug is like it's really intermittent. Like in various different parts of phases of the game's development, that's been the case. And then it stopped being the case, and then it's been the case again. And there's been different permutations of it where sometimes people will have a session change, appear as a war target, but you can't shoot them. All kinds of stuff. It's like, it's bugged as crap.
It's far from problematic, though, as far as I'm aware. I don't know of anybody using that.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's not.
Yeah, it's
common.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Well, now that we have determined that EVE Online has bugs, is there anything else we want to talk about? Because I think we've covered absolutely everything. Like, obviously there are some things we didn't come to a super good conclusion on, but Matt and I have learned a lot, and I've been talking about Wardex for 3 hours, and I didn't think I would ever do that when I signed up for the CSM. But
We're all
it was actually
so entertaining.
It was entertaining, if nothing else.
Are you ready for the mining roundtable tomorrow, Jintan?
If someone tries to put together a mining roundtable, I will 100% join it and try to resist cutting myself.
That is dedication. That is dedication. I would throw myself off a bridge.
It's okay. It's no one loves pain more than Jin. So if you have a roundtable, always throw first to him.
Yeah, please do. I will help with everything.
Reminder that literally everybody agrees with reversing cost scaling to be based on the size of the attack.
Yeah, that's something I will bring up. Let's see.
After they remove all the pocos and have Citadels do the poco stuff. Otherwise,
and remove incursions. Remove all incursions.
Can we just automate PI as a whole? Just turn off the system that's there and just fix PI to be this planet just makes this and it just shows up in in
Yo, real talk. If it was a fucking,
same goes for Plex.
If it was like an app, if I could do PI on my phone when I was like bored at work, I would 100% do the shit out of PI.
It like exactly like right now, it is a fucking chore. It is literally the worst thing I've experienced in this game. Setting up PI. Literally
now you have
makes me
obviously
want to
never
cut
experienced
myself.
setting up a reaction pods, my friend, because I used to
I
run
have
57 of those.
There's one actual bug with the Wardec system. Like the one actual mechanical bug with the Wardec system.
What?
When a corp disbands while you're at war with them, you end up with a bill in your wallet that doesn't ever go away unless you pay it for another week.
I've sent CCP like dozens.
Have you submitted a bug report for it?
Dozens of bug reports.
We had the GMs remove them. Like
same. I do that like once every few months. It's still a bug. It's been there for years, and they know about it. And it's so simple. Just do an SQL query that checks the date and deletes all the bills before a certain date.
Hey guys, so this is basically wrapped up, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, we that's what I was trying to get to. I was trying to get to the
one more thing. I've got another one.
Let me just
I
play
got
that
this one's actually quite good, I think. When you declare war on somebody and they disband before the war even goes live, you should get your money back.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. That's fine.
Or if they drop to like one member in their corporation, because that could be abused as well. Just keeping one person behind to make people pay for the war anyway.
That's what we used to do.
So I'll keep
we got Wardec 5 consecutive corps in a row. I was like, all right, somebody's clearly paying attention here.
Yeah, I don't think anybody thinks it's good that people can disband their corp and form a new one can completely nullify the point of declaring war on them.
Well, the problem
That
is,
seems
I mean, what would,
best, like,
what would
you
you
lose
do?
assets.
No,
if,
never mind. I don't want to start this up again. We've already been here for a while.
Yeah, thank you for the solid 3 hours of discussion, and thank you, Ashtarothi, for both recording and moderating it with us. And I'd like to give a big shout out to Toxic, who helped put this together initially. He was instrumental. We wouldn't have been able to do it without, well, we wouldn't have done it at all without his drive to get it done. So if you thought that this was productive, I suggest you give him a quick hand job in the corner or something.
Speaking of sex acts,
I will coddle the
Tora-
balls and swallow like a faggot.
Tora Yulla says you can suck the snotty end of his dick.
Oh, awesome. When?
All right. On that note, before this gets me banned from Twitch, thanks everybody. I'll have the recording up as soon as I can, hopefully by the end of the day.
Thanks
Toxic for CSM.
What do you mean the end of the day? It's fucking midnight.
Yeah, it's 1 o'clock at night.
End of my day. I've still got a few hours.
Five
Thank
here.
you for coming.
Some of us live with.
And by the way, for those of you who are watching my stream, tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I'm not doing the time conversions right now. I'll just tweet it out, whatever. I will be streaming coding Eve using the API and talking about Eve and all that sort of stuff. So thanks for coming. And if you like what I do, go ahead and support my Patreon. I think that's it. Have a good one.